as I understand it, we're saying that the back has to be modern contemporary. If it's Spanish, it has to be Spanish. If it's Tudor, God help us, it has to be Tudor. Is that really what we want to do?
No, and I believe in the past we haven't been that strict where the accessory dwelling unit has to be the exact same style.
It has to have four walls and a roof.
Sure, yeah. And when we look at compatibility, we look at a number of things. We look at the size, we look at the location. Style could be part of it, but we just want to make sure that, to some degree, that they don't completely clash.
We do. I mean, in some parts of the city, we have rules about what styles you can use. I think in Ocean Park, there are 3 approved styles you're allowed to build in. But we're not applying that to the ADUs. Basically, people can do something different from what the main house is, as long as it's not wildly incompatible. I mean,
Yes,
it can't look like the Hog Farm bus or something.
Right.
Okay,
That's correct.
Great, thank you.
Councilmember Hemorrhage.
So I have a couple of questions. The first one involves when you have garages in ADUs and you want to put in an ADU. And whether, and I say this because I'm in the situation, I know others in my neighborhood are, and I do want to do that. And my garage is it's a 1923 house with a garage right on the lot line. And then I would have to move the garage out, but it's set back, basically a garage length from the alley. So is what the ordinance is, as I looked at it from my point of view, I could extend the garage, right, turn the garage itself into an ADU and add the garage in so it would be on the alley, but not the other way around. Obviously, because then they would have to drive through the ADU. Right? I don't use it anyway, so what can I tell you? But yes, but I couldn't add on top of the garage.
In theory, you could possibly add on top of the garage.
But it said I can't, as I understand it, I can't add on to the garage if it's right on the lot line.
Right, you would have to provide a setback for that new second story.
Okay, but the garage could stay in the same place and the second story could be off. I mean, that's a pretty meaningless setback, isn't it? But anyway, okay, so that's now, the other question I have is, so we've seen all over the city people changing the fronts of their homes from well, they aren't really changing the fronts of their homes. The fronts of their homes are the long side of their lot, so the 150-foot side of their lot, and I've talked about this since I was on the Planning Commission, and so they make that the alleged side yard, even though the entrance is still on that side, and they have these high hedges or walls that they put on that side, so you're starting to get this very walled effect on the long sides of lots. And I wonder what we're going to do about that and the ADUs and the setbacks and how we're going to, if there's something we can do in these revisions to the zoning code, and I keep asking this, to prevent people from turning what's really the front of the house into the purported side of the house. This is a theoretical, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
We've talked about this before.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would just say that we have been asked to look at the R1 standards, and I think what you're raising here is something that we can definitely consider when we kind of do a more comprehensive review and potential update to the R1 standards. But it doesn't seem like it's really addressed in what we have before you tonight.
What I'm worried about is that it's going to get even more convoluted when the ADUs come in. Because I haven't figured it out, I'm not clever enough, but somebody is going to figure out a way to turn this to turn more side yards into front yards into side yards, if you know what I mean.
Right.
One thing I can add to that is that, so we're talking about corner lots, and typically if
Yes.
somebody wanted to use the long side as the front, I mean, technically,
As a side, right?
No,
Because
side
the wide side.
the white side.
I mean,
what they want to do is turn it into the side because they can only have a 42-foot hedge or 42-foot wall in the front. So what they're doing is they're turning the long side of the property, which is still the front, into the side of the property so that they have a wall really in front of their entire property on the long side. So, and I think when you have the ADUs, what you're going to have is they'll put the ADU and call that the front, put it on the short end, right, on the 50-foot, right, and say there's the front of the house. And then the real front of the house will be the mansion in the back with the 150-foot wall running along the front of the street. And that's what I'm worried about.
Sure, but I mean, technically, regardless of what the existing orientation of the house is, technically the narrow side of the lot is considered the front.
So can the ADU be the front house?
There was some interesting discussion about that at Planning Commission. There were commissioners who felt that the location of the ADU shouldn't be limited to necessarily the back.
Well, and I've always maintained that the bigger house should be on the alley, so we have less.
Yeah.
Why not? But apart from that, if you have a house centered on the lot, could you build your ADU on the short end so as to make the side of the lot actually, or the long side of the lot, not the front anymore? That's really my question, because that's a thing that I'm seeing that's offensive. Just saying, that's another consideration. Thanks.
Mayor Pro Tem Davis.
Thank you. So one of the great things about accessory dwelling units is they do offer an opportunity for us to build more affordable housing without engaging in development wars. And one of the things I'm interested in is creating the opportunity to build accessory dwelling units that might be a little larger that actually, for example, a couple could live in. You know, wouldn't be a really tiny one bedroom or a studio, but would be a real meaningful home that someone might live in for a very long time. I mean, that's one of the objections we always hear when we get these projects that have smaller units, is those tend to be transient units that people don't make their lives in. But if we build larger ADUs, we might be able to actually create some opportunities for people to live in them. So I guess my question is, if we were to take that 650 and put it up to 750 or 800, would disaster strike? I mean, is there some reason not to do it, given that we want to maintain all our other codes? So you still have the limitations, you know, of 36-foot coverage on the first floor and 24% coverage, whatever it is, on the second floor. I mean, I'm not talking about making the whole lot project any larger, but if someone wanted to invest more square footage in a ADU, would that create massive problems?
We wouldn't say that it would create massive problems, and that's certainly direction that council can give us tonight. But as I mentioned, we're also going back to Planning Commission to further discuss these standards and give us some more time to think about it and analyze it. So what you have for you tonight is pretty bare bones, just to make it consistent with state law. If council feels comfortable with making that type of suggestion tonight, they certainly can. But again, it is something that we will be revisiting in the near future.
So assuming the council voted affirmatively, we could give you direction to take that back to Planning Commission and put that in part of their overall discussion about ADUs. Okay, great. Thank you.
Councilmember O'Day.
Thanks. I appreciate the need to make this change now. As pointed out, though, it also sort of makes a complicated moment in time for us as we have a transitional period, and as well as all this great work we had done to try to simplify our zoning language, and now it's a bit mucked up from this. But that leaves me asking a couple of questions as I go through this, and the first one, I think they're just sort of foundational to understand. So the differences between, first off, setbacks. So I'm seeing changes in setbacks. Those are not part of what's governed by state law, though, correct?
That's correct. state law allows local agencies to determine certain setbacks, but I believe there might be some mandatory provisions in the state law about setbacks, yes.
The state law requires that the conversion of the garage, that we can't require a setback. So that's actually consistent with what the city does now with garages. You know, if they're built only as garages, you don't need a side yard setback. So this state law basically allows the conversion of that garage without having to shift the building over. You know, there were some odd machinations before to try and make ADUs fit, but with this, you could do a straight conversion of a garage to an ADU.
I see. And in, as Councilmember McEwen pointed out, with the city basically everywhere in the city being within a half-mile transit, this means essentially no parking requirement at all for any ADUs, including brand new ones.
That's correct.
And differences between residential districts. I was trying to parse out, are there significant differences? Is this just, I mean, most of this is R1. Is it all R1?
It applies to all residential districts.
It's all residential.
Yes.
Okay. Very good.
Councilmember McEwen.
Well, I want to make sure I get that vacation rental protection into what we do. So I'm going to make a motion that we adopt the staff recommendation with the addition that in section 9.31.300I, which you'll find in the red line on packet page 298, that we add to the end of that this language. The primary single unit dwelling or the accessory dwelling unit shall only be offered for residential occupancy of at least 30 days or more. And with that addition, I move the staff recommendation.
Okay, moved by Councilmember McEwen, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Davis. And Councilmember O'Connor has a question.
Right. So if under some of these home share platforms, someone can rent out a private room, does that preclude the homeowner from renting out a private room in their home?
No.
Okay, just want to be clear on that. Thank you.
But it does change the definition of the ADU in here from being a home share into the rental, into a short-term rental.
Well, actually,
correct?
it was never defined in here as a potential home share. But what has happened is because of the way state law defines all of an R1 parcel as a single dwelling unit, if we didn't make this change, all the new ADUs could have just been put on the internet as vacation rentals, and that would certainly not fulfill either our intention to create housing nor to protect neighborhoods. So by doing this, we're making it clear that the ADUs shall only be rented for 30 days or more. Or the front house. You can live in the ADU if you own the property and rent out the front house, either one. But you can't use either one for a vacation rental.
And
As
we
a
did-
separate dwelling. Now, if you have an extra bedroom in the house, or if you're willing to share the ADU with somebody, you're fine.
right, but if the ADU is like a back room on the lot, right? What I was hearing from the staff was that it was considered home share. Like you could be in the front house and you could rent it out under home share, but what you're suggesting now is that it makes it a vacation rental, and that means that it can only be 30 days or more.
30 days or more for the second unit on a single unit lot, yes. And the owner has to live in one or the other. That's already in the law.
So
Right, right.
I agree that I think that's a change in the law, because I think when we and I've been involved with this, but when we originally set it up, we set it up so that you could use in single family in R1 neighborhoods, you could use the accessory dwelling unit as an Airbnb unit.
We didn't actually set it up that way. That was imposed on us by a definition that existed in state law, and that was actually counter to what we had really wanted. So I think we had the opportunity here, at least with the new ADUs, to change that, to control that.
Mr. Seltzer would like to opine on this.
I just want to say this is a policy question because AB 2299 is very clear that the local agency may require the applicant to be an owner and that the property be used for rentals of terms longer than 30 days. So it's consistent with the state law.
So the
It's
state
up
has
to
given
you.
us permission to do what we really wanted to do, so let's do it.
But my question is, this only applies to newly built ones, right? Or the way you described it, it said new ones.
Let me turn to staff on that, because if something's already in existence, I don't know that we can retroactively change its status.
Why not?
As a general principle, yeah, I mean, the laws would apply to things going forward and
Yeah.
not reach back.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I might feel differently about it if we were going to go back and retroactively take a bunch of ADUs off the home sharing market.
Correct.
So,
We talk about things being grandparented in, so these are grannied in, I guess.
yeah. I unfortunately did not get the chance. We moved ahead faster than I anticipated to ask a question of staff. I just wanted to clarify one concern that was raised by a member of the public about the red line version on the garage standards in Sunset Park and the neighborhoods between Wilshire and Montana. We are not making a change. We're just affirming what is elsewhere, both in our old zoning ordinance and our new zoning ordinance. It's like all the other changes we're making, just as a point of clarity, correct?
That's correct. There's
So
no
that's-
proposed changes regarding garage projections and reductions of setbacks or anything like that.
Yeah, and that's always been the standard in Sunset Park and between Wilshire and Montana for single-family homes.
Yes, in all single family.
And it only applies to the garage, does not apply, it does not create mansionization, and it does not allow for additional square footage. We still have the same standards for lot coverage.
Correct.
All right, thank you. All right, any further discussion on the motion?
I just want to say on the immediate prior discussion, and we could certainly talk to Jing and staff, but you could have a restriction that goes both backwards and forwards on this on the 30-day issue. Someone is not vested in the ability to rent for less than 30 days because they happen to be doing it now. You could change the rules that apply to everybody in the city if that's what you want to do.
But wouldn't it be appropriate to at least appropriately notice the public of the possibility of that change?
No, yes, but I'm just saying it is not and it might in fact be administratively, virtually, it might be very difficult to have two sets of rules in this regard to say if you're in effect, if you have a structure that's been built, it was built 3 years ago, you can do whatever you want, but from now forward, you can do only 30 days or more. But that's your call. But legally, you could have one rule for everybody if that's what you chose to do.
Let me ask a question, since it was my suggestion. That was not something that the public would have known we were contemplating doing tonight. So would it be better to bring that back separately if the council should decide to do that?
You certainly could do that.
I mean, right now, people could legitimately say, I had no idea you were going to talk about taking away my second unit as a vacation rental. And
You could
that
certainly
might
do that.
create- Okay, so I'm going to leave it the way it is for now, that it's going forward.
Always good.
All right, hearing no further discussion, we'll have a roll call vote on this.
Councilmember O'Connor,
Yes.
Councilmember O'Day,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Davis.
Yes.
Councilmember Himmerich.
Yes.
Councilmember Vasquez.
Yes.
Councilmember McKeown.
Yes.
And Mayor Winter.
Yes, that passes unanimously. On direction.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we direct staff when they go back before the Planning Commission to explore the possibility of increasing the maximum size of accessory dwelling units. And I'll just leave it that open-ended. I don't think we need to propose a new size, but that would be my motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by somebody. We'll call it Hemorrhage.
Somebody.
Did you want to speak to it, Councilmember Hemorrhage, or you just pushed your button?
I actually wanted to add to it, and that is, I think it would be a friendly amendment to have them explore the possibilities for incentivizing affordability of accessory dwelling units.
All right. Anybody else want to add anything? In that case, I think we can have a voice vote on that direction. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the direction is clear. Thank you very much. And we're now, can the clerk call, I believe it's item 8A.
Item 8A is update to council on community choice aggregation, and you have 13 requests to speak.
It's Mr. Wong, is it not?
Yes.
Good evening, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, council members and staff. My name is Garrett Wong. I am the Sustainability Analyst for Climate and Energy Programs in the Office of Sustainability. We're here tonight to update you on the city's progress in terms of exploring options for community choice aggregation. There are multiple pathways to implementing this program for Santa Monica. We're going to discuss what are the pros and cons and essentially explore which will be the best option. So to give you an idea of what Santa Monica's electricity load looks like right now, we have almost 50,000 residential accounts, almost 10,000 commercial accounts. This represents almost 20% of our greenhouse gas emissions as a total of our greenhouse gas inventory. We serve over 900,000 megawatt hours in a year, and this represents a gross revenue value of $55 million. Last year, Southern California Edison's electricity mix consisted of 25% renewable energy. There was a significant portion of that was unspecified. This is one of the things that will continue to diminish over time as SB 350, which was passed, will require Edison to increasingly build its renewable portfolio 50% by 2030. So just for a primer, for people who are not familiar, community choice aggregation or community choice energy essentially allows a local government, a community, to aggregate the electric load of the community and essentially provide that power directly to the customers via the utility. The utility does not go away. They still own the transmission, the distribution, essentially all of the assets of the electrical utility. But in terms of where the power comes from is up to the community, and that's where the choice comes in. Community choice aggregation affords us the ability to achieve a higher percentage of renewable energy at a quicker rate at a potentially lower cost. This would be an essential strategy for us as a community to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions as it relates to electricity generation and use. In 2015, this council adopted a non-binding resolution to participate in a feasibility study, and this feasibility study was organized by South Bay Clean Power. South Bay Clean Power is a collection of about 14 cities, West Side cities, South Bay cities, includes cities such as Torrance and Inglewood and Carson, as well as Hermosa Beach and Redondo Beach. Once South Bay Clean Power had its collection of cities, they approached the county to take on the leading role of this feasibility study, and which the county did, and developed a business plan afterwards. The Board of Supervisors then directed the LA County Chief Executive Officer to work with interested and eligible cities to essentially form a joint powers authority. Both South Bay Clean Power and the county are continuing to hold stakeholder meetings, develop their JPA agreements, as well as their business plans, and are hoping to start their CCAs before the end of 2017. The county's business plan essentially found that going to a community choice aggregation model would lower costs for customers, achieve a higher rate of renewables, reduce emissions, as well as provide local economic development in terms of green jobs by sourcing local power sources and procuring local power sources that could be developed to serve this entity. So as I mentioned, the options before the city are a few. Currently, the county is in its formation process. They're currently holding stakeholder workshops to determine the agreement that would be the Joint Powers Authority. South Bay Clean Power is also looking to establish what would be considered a sub-regional CCA. largely consisting of the original 14 cities that were a part of this effort to begin with. And the city could also explore initiating a single city entity, CCA, which these services could be provided by Lancaster Choice Energy, which is also a single city CCA, or it could seek a third-party service provider to provide these services. I'll explain what each of these pathways mean, and we'll discuss what the general pros and cons would be. So as I mentioned, the LACCE, or Los Angeles County Community Choice Energy Program, to participate, the city would enter into this JPA with the county, and we would have a seat on the board of directors. At the point, as the current negotiations are going on right now, what we understand our voting influence to be is one city, one vote, unless called upon by one member or several members, the need for a weighted vote. And the proposed weighted percentage would be based off of the electric load of that community. So Santa Monica would represent somewhere between the 10th and 15th most influential member as a part of, based on its weighted vote amongst this group. The county would essentially be issuing and administering the services for developing and operating the CCA, which would essentially export the risk and the burden of administering this program for the city, and it would obviously take advantage of the scale that could be aggregated across the county. A similar process could be explored with South Bay Clean Power. Again, South Bay Clean Power is a collection of 14 cities. We would enter into the JPA, and we would have a seat as a board of directors. South Bay Clean Power would serve as the operating entity for the city, and again, the voting representation, as we understand it currently, would still be the same. Lancaster Choice Energy is the only city entity, CCA, in California today. They have been active for 2 years, and they have actually offered their services to other cities interested in pursuing the same path that they have gone. In the staff report, it was written that the services that they could render would cost twice this amount, which is listed here on the presentation, so I'm correcting that right now. Their services they're offering is for about $77,000, which would essentially be doing a lot of the back-end paperwork and administration, communicating with the Public Utilities Commission that the city is interested in developing this program, and then doing so on our behalf. There would be an ongoing fee to maintain these services, which would be procuring and delivering the power, doing all the billing. But this council could have that control in terms of setting rates, determining the power content mix, setting kind of whatever program elements that we would want to deliver as a community service, and essentially being in control of the program locally. Lancaster would return the revenue to the city, and the city would be free to use that for any purpose, and we would hope that it would be for energy programs. Setting up a CCA could also be done by a third-party service provider. Most service providers we've seen are offering to do this with no startup costs. And the way that they recoup their costs is by building in revenue into the rates that they establish, and then the city would then pay those service providers after the program is set up and successful. So this helps export, again, the risk from the city in terms of the startup. And it puts the onus on the service provider to essentially implement and design a successful program. So across all of the different options before the city, there are some pros and cons to any of these pathways, and I think it's worth mentioning, that Santa Monica has long been a leader in the field of sustainability, in the field of energy efficiency and renewable energy. And we now have an opportunity before us to be a part of a much larger leadership effort. That said, we know that things that are larger tend to move slower. We might have less influence involved in that body. And we would not receive direct revenue being a part of a larger entity. So those are just some points to consider in terms of which path to decide. It's also worth noting that any of these pathways aren't final. All of these options are open to the city, and the city wouldn't be barred from pursuing any of these pathways should we continue exploring others. We can join a JPA at any point in time as long as the bar of entry is not too high. We could become our own city CCA so long as the business analytics of all that work out. If we were to become a city CCA and decide to join another larger CCA, that option could still be before us. But again, these are all still very much in motion. With the staff report, we've also prepared a resolution for you to adopt, and we'd like to recommend that you adopt it so that way we can meaningfully participate in these JPA negotiations. And essentially, it's establishing a platform of goals and objectives that we would like to see as we represent the city in these negotiations to ensure that Santa Monica is indeed going to benefit from participating at these larger organizations and working with these other constituents. So we're seeking at least that the council approve this resolution in addition to providing some direction. And just to remind you of the recommended actions, we hope that you will provide staff with direction in terms of which pursuing one or more CCA implementation pathways. Again, the options are to continue to engage with LA County, South Bay Clean Power, or explore initiating a CCA on its own. Could be with Lancaster Choice Energy or third-party service provider. In addition, we recommend that you adopt the resolution that establishes this platform of goals and objectives, as well as appointing a council representative, one staff liaison, and one alternate to formally participate in these JPA negotiations. And with that, that's our presentation. We're ready for questions.
I believe Councilmember Hemmerich would like to start off the questions.
Yeah, so once again, I want to tell you how impressed I was with your presentation, and it's so nice to see you. Now, one of the things, apart from how clear it was, that impressed me was how even-handed it was between the three options. But that said, knowing as little as I do about this and what the choices are, we've had people weigh in. A lot of people say we should be a single entity, et cetera. I want to know what you, who know more about this than probably anybody in this room except possibly Mr. Kubani, think is the best alternative for us and why. And I want him to start. You can.
The leadership of Santa Monica has been truly impressive, and people look to Santa Monica to continue to be a leader. In order for this city to achieve its goals, it's going to need all the resources it can muster to make good on those commitments, particularly carbon neutrality, and as we look at transportation as a large emitter for the city, looking to electrify the transportation system. Those resources will need to be brought to bear, and a CCA could be a method of doing that. That said, our purpose and role of being a leader is to bring along others, and being a part of the county or the South Bay program would definitely be a leadership city amongst others. And that's a very political answer, but there will be other people to speak on that behalf, and you can also say that.
Sure.
Wait, can I ask one more? So we've been having a debate here about airplane travel and how much plane travel affects the car. If you took in the plane travel we do, in addition to the rest of our carbon footprint, how, can you give us a vague equivalence of that? We've been debating this.
So your personal plane travel or
Yeah, an individual's personal plane travel versus, let's say, what they use in the city a year.
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. I can tell you all of the activity that happens at Santa Monica's airport amounts to about 2% of our total greenhouse gas emissions. The community's vehicle transportation sector, which includes half of the trips that start and end in Santa Monica, accounts for 64%. But again, we're talking about really imbalanced scales in terms of the number of people who are moved moved on a daily basis by plane or by vehicle.
Thank you.
And I wanted to address your question about what is our recommendation, and I'll base my answer on my participation and evaluation of the various options as I know them. They're not definitive, but as I see them, the LA County option has a lot of unknowns because we don't know how big it will be and we don't know who will be participating in it. Garrett mentioned it could be a slow-moving process. I would expect a JPA with a very large number of members may vote on directions that are different from what we're asking council to vote on. So those are some of the negatives. The South Bay Clean Power, we being staff have been interacting with South Bay Clean Power for almost 2 years and have spoken with many of the representatives, staff members, and council members of the other cities, and we found that the majority of that group, if not all of that group, generally align with the goals that we've enunciated today.
And we saw them at the League of Cities in that meeting that you and I went to.
In Long Beach, yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
So now I know what you're saying.
So, again, that would be a JPA, we would be a voting member, and we wouldn't have total control. The benefits of those two things are that Santa Monica would be a member of a group with very limited risk to the city. If we were to become our own CCA, we would have obviously much more control over the revenues from that and what we could do with it. We would also be assuming a level of risk. I've spoken to a number of people in the community in the last couple of weeks who are strongly recommending that we pursue that path. What I've been telling them is I wouldn't recommend to City Council that we pursue that path right now without spending more money to evaluate what levels of risk there are to the city, and we would essentially be assuming a new business enterprise on the part of the city. So that will require additional staff time, additional funding, which ultimately you would anticipate would be covered out of the revenues from that business, but that's a significant effort. So that's different from joining a JPA. So
What's the investment? If you have if you were going to do your own CCA, what kind of investment is it?
Right now, what Lancaster Clean Energy is offering, they're asking for $77,000 to basically conduct a feasibility study, and then a smaller ongoing fee for them to manage it. So it's a relatively small amount of money. I believe Hermosa Beach has invested about that much to do a feasibility study and are going down the path of starting their own CCA.
And is it Culver City? Are they the ones that already are down the path? It's not.
No.
So I mean, we've gotten emails about
It's Hermosa Beach.
Okay, it's Hermosa. But they haven't started yet.
No,
Thank you.
sure.
Councilmember McEwen.
Well, I've been following the conversations on this, and I am tremendously interested, as I sense the entire council is. In fact, I'm going to try and focus the discussion because I don't think the members of the public tonight need to convince the council to do something. At 11 o'clock, I might run the risk of turning community choice aggregation into community choice aggravation, which we wouldn't want to do. But there are some choices we have to make, and I just to inform it and to ask you the question. Soon after I joined the council, we as a city contracted with a renewable electricity provider who we've been using for 100% of the city facilities all these years. It's 100% renewable energy, and we get it for something like 5% less than Southern California Edison would be charging us. I see that SCE now generally uses about 25% renewable. I've been a bit disappointed to hear projections that at least the South Bay group was saying, well, we could do 50% renewable. As a Santa Monican, I want to do 100% renewable, and I want to make it affordable to people. And I'm interested in voting representation so that we get that kind of control over what happens. And I'm interested in equity so that every member of our community has that option. I realize that renewable energy is still, for most people, more expensive than dirty energy is. More expensive in the short term. Actually, if you're looking at the price of your life and the planet, it's probably cheaper. But we'll have to convince people of that to pay the bill. At what level of participation do, the question is leadership. If we're part of the county, we will be leaders in a very large group, but we'll have a relatively small representation on the board. And while it's nice to say that it'll be one city, one vote, the truth is on the substantive vote, somebody's going to make that call for it to be by electrical load. And we are the 15th city. If we're a member of the South Bay group, even though we're the third largest city in that group, there are two other cities that between them are 45% of the electrical use. So they really have control of what happens with that group. If we go as an individual city, of course, we have the control. And we would be buying a substantial amount of power. I think it was 900 megawatt hours. I mean, that's almost a gigawatt hour a year, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, we're a pretty good-sized customer. So over what period of time going forward from now will we get information that we can better assess which is the best choice? Because I think tonight what we want to do is explore everything. Mm-hmm. But can you give me a timeline? When do we have to fish or cut bait?
That's a tough question, and I don't know if Garrett can answer that either. My impression is South Bay Clean Power and also LA County are both very anxious to get as many cities as possible to sign up. My understanding is nobody has jumped yet and said we're going to be part of the JPA. So I don't know how long that process is going to take. They started discussions, LA County, in January. They're already editing the JPA agreement. But I'm not sure what the timeline is for when the first city is going to sign up. We will be able to sign up with these groups once a JPA agreement is on the table right away.
They all want us. I mean, obviously we're...
Right. So I mean, I think we have some time. Obviously, we have more leverage if we're sitting at the table and negotiating what that language is. My feeling is, Garrett mentioned both of these groups want to start a CCA by the end of 2017. So you would hope that the JPAs would be functioning, or basically you would have a number of parties to the JPA within the next 3 months or so.
Okay, so it's a fairly short-term timeline for us to be making decisions. But tonight, what we need to do is to say, yes, we're vitally interested. We will choose one of us to be the council member representative. We'll choose somebody to be the staff representative. And so we'll be taking on a new and more active role than we have so far. Because I've been reviewing the JPA draft agreements, but we haven't really had a hands-on experience with it yet. That'll be the next step for us, is to put our hand in the ring.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Councilmember Vasquez.
So, I'm sorry, on your point, Councilmember McEwen, if the council so chose, we could, they could also direct staff to actively explore the single city entity CCA, and then present that. And then as that process becomes more evident, we'll most likely have more information on the county CCA as well as the South Bay Clean Power CCA. And I would also like to add that representatives from both the county as well as South Bay Clean Power are here, and I think they're both on the queue to speak. So you can
Okay,
also
I hope
hear
there'll
from
be
them.
no sniping, because I got some email today that there's a little bit of sniping going on. I don't appreciate that. I think what we want to do is stay positive in the electrical sense.
And it is still Valentine's Day for another 54 minutes. Councilmember Vasquez.
When you mentioned the South, I think we should explore all three, and I think you're right on in terms of going independent. When you mentioned South Bay, though, we have to use all their, I guess that's Edison's equipment, basically. Do we get hurt by that? Because I know Torrance, for example, which was part of the South Bay, they're the ones that seem to have the most problem with downtime and blackouts. So since we're going to be using their basically hardware that's already set up, is that something that could hurt us locally if we're part of that same grid?
Well, we've always been a part of that grid, and becoming a CCA in any format would put us in a much better position to start procuring and developing resources that could eventually prevent these rolling blackouts and prevent shortages and prevent demand spikes that kind of happen at the regional level that tend to influence local customers. So things like battery storage and controls to control load and solar in the system would definitely help us
eliminate some of those things in the future. Okay.
Councilmember O'Day.
I just have a disclosure at this point. I maybe should have made it when we started the item, but I wanted to mention that I typically have stepped down on questions related to energy and CCA as a result of my company being owned by an independent power producer. This summer we spun off from that company. We now have new ownership, and I no longer believe that there is any appearance of a conflict at this point. So I'll participate in this item. Thanks.
Well, and then I just have one question that I've sort of wondered about. I'm all in favor of this. I've pushed for this for quite some time, but I wonder, we've put great emphasis in, I don't know how many years, on developing more rooftop solar in our community. So I have two questions. If I have already rooftop solar, there's no particular, I mean, it depends on how much power output I'm getting out of it, whether I'm covering all my load or not, right? But if I'm covering a fraction of my load, then I have the advantage through a CCA of buying more renewable energy than what I'm already generating. Is that correct?
So the remainder of the energy that you consume, you're obviously purchasing from Edison at this point, which is 25% renewable. If the CCA was in place and you elected to have 100% renewable energy, you would be covered. The other issue at hand is just the amount of retail rate that you get if you are an excess generator, which is still favorable, but that could change over time if Edison is still determining the rates in that way.
So with the CCA, I might get a more favorable rate for whatever I put into the grid, or we just don't know at this point?
We don't really know at this point. I think there's definitely a lot of favor for new customers putting up solar than the existing ones, but I think the idea is to always be incentivizing solar as a
that's
CCA,
my next question. So if we're in a CCA tomorrow and someone was thinking about putting on rooftop solar, would they hesitate thinking, well, okay, I can now just get all renewable energy, for instance? Why should I put in my rooftop solar? But at the same time, as a community and as a county, the more we can put locally sourced renewable energy, the better we are in the long run. So I'm just wondering if we thought that part through. Or
Right. So the incentive changed somewhat. If the environmental benefit is essentially also lost if you're offsetting 100% renewable power by putting up solar. There's no efficiency gains there. But if we're talking about your ability to control your own energy destiny within your home. That's a matter of choice. It's a matter of control and keeping your costs down. And we want to make sure that you have the resources to do that. Not just solar, but battery storage and electric vehicles, managing your other plug loads. So that way you're managing your own costs. So it's more of a matter of local control at that point at the customer level.
Well, so given that some of these scenarios, we would generate revenues from being a CCA, would we conceivably be able to allocate some of those revenues towards, our own citywide subsidies for putting in rooftop solar or putting in battery storage, et cetera, so we created those advantages in our community?
I mean, I would take a look at the way that we run our water resources program. We provide local water. We also provide conservation programs and rebates to help get to our self-sufficiency goal. So if the city were to choose a single city entity, we would have full control of those revenues. In the JPA scenario, those revenues would go through the JPA, and then all customers of the JPA would be eligible to take advantage of those revenues, most likely in the form of rebates, potentially feed-in tariffs for large customers to deploy solar. We're not certain. Right now the discussion with JPAs and their formation is really about just the procurement and retail of electricity. There's not yet a mature discussion around what programs would actually look like. But we would be in control. We would be able to influence and design those programs once we had a revenue stream.
All right, I just want to make sure that, obviously, the overarching idea I have is that, okay, we're in a CCA, so we don't have to do anything else. Where obviously we should be continuing to do all these other things.
Yes.
Yeah.
The latter.
Right, thank you. So we will turn to the public now. And the first speaker will be Harvey Eder. I think I got it right this time. Third time's the charm. Followed by Catherine King, Chris Gutierrez, and Laura Gillette. Welcome back.
Thank you. I'm Harvey Eder with the Public Solar Power Coalition. And I'd been working in solar over 50 years. First saw it in Israel in '68 when I visited my survivor relatives. And I saw it up on the roofs. It was hot water systems. I said, "What's that?" They said, "That's solar hot water." There's basically photovoltaics, solar cells, and concentrating solar. And I want to incorporate in the record here the entire record on the 2016 Air Quality Management Plan, CEQA document, socioeconomic, into the record here, and also litigation that happened with the district in the past over their 12 plan, etc. In 2011, I worked for 25 years with the Sierra Club, been for 6 years on their statewide energy committee, and as part of that, there was a CCA subcommittee, and from that subcommittee, in the fall of '74, I was on a call with Joe Galliani from South Bay and told him he was going to go and get letters against the legislation that would hurt community choice. I told him to come by and visit Santa Monica. This was done. I'm upset with tension between the county and South Bay. There was one bullet point in there that said that the LA County might just, not cooperate with South Bay. So I guess we've got representatives here. We'll see what's happening. There was recent documents. I'm not happy about what Councilman McEwen said, that there'd been sniping and what. The process is the product, and let's keep that in mind. Thank you.
Ms. King?
Good evening. My name is Catherine King. I'm co-chair of Climate Action Santa Monica. I have been a supporter of Community Choice Clean Power since 2010, when Marin Clean Power was the first California CCA providing proof of concept and paved the way for the rest of the state. With Santa Monica now choosing its own path to CCA, I want what is the best fit for Santa Monica, which I also hope to be an approach that benefits CCA regionally. Santa Monica needs to feel comfortable and confident with its choice, and rightfully should explore all realistic options. Having said that, the option that I can speak most knowledgeably about is South Bay Clean Power, as I, along with Dean Kubani and CHASM co-chair Chris Gutierrez, have been a member of the South Bay Clean Power Working Group almost since its inception. I do know that the approach and the values laid out by South Bay Clean Power are 100% in line with Santa Monica's DNA. I would hope that whatever approach Santa Monica takes would include, like South Bay Clean Power, the following objectives: the fastest path to 100% renewable power with the goal of reaching it in 10 years after CCA launch, no use of Category 3 unbundled renewable energy certificates, RECs, a distributed energy resources DER model encompassing all that entails with a Los Angeles County-wide build-out, a focus on local economic investment, local power generation, local jobs, and local career opportunities, a partnership with labor, including community benefits agreements, job training, and apprentice programs, and finally, a program focus and emphasis on environmental justice in frontline communities where economic workforce and health needs are the greatest. One more paragraph?
No, not a paragraph. I'm sorry. That's it. Your time's
Okay.
up. Maybe Ms. Gutierrez can fill in the blanks.
Okay.
And,
Well-
and after Ms. Gutierrez, I don't see Laura Gillette, and then Paul Scott, and Gary begins with a G, and maybe an E after. Gary Giroux. Welcome.
Good evening. I'm Chris Gutierrez, and Ms. Gillette had to return home. She's a colleague of mine. I am the co-chair, as Catherine noted, for Climate Action Santa Monica. I want to put on the record how really wonderful this evening is, as it carries forth one of our prominent features of our Sustainability Bill of Rights. In 2013, almost 4 years ago, we established that, as you know, the rights of nature and the community rights to be fundamental. In our ordinance, we called out our climate stability. We also called out the fastest access to affordable renewable energies and economic stability. So I want to put that on the record so people see this as a coherent, aspirational effort and moving along on our progress towards that end. I would also like us to consider in the resolution that's offered this evening, while I endorse generally the idea of going to explore all three options, there's really not a goal that identifies what Catherine was attempting to lay on the table about either creating jobs or environmental justice and the influence we can have with that regard. On an earlier note this evening, we had the discussion about diversity issues and contracting with opportunities for people of underserved parts of our community or elsewhere. Hence, one of the reasons I think participating in a JPA is really not only economically sound, but also exciting for our influence is because, like climate, our regard for underserved communities goes far beyond our borders. So I would encourage us to explore all the options, but to keep that in deliberate effort. Finally, I look forward to the reports on how things are going. I want us to have a negotiation strong hand so that the sooner we get at that table, the more we can address the program elements that you all offered, including the potential feed-in tariff issues that Mayor Winter has started to approach. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Scott, one moment. So after you is Gary Giroux, Bruce Campbell, and Jennifer Kropke. Welcome, Mr. Scott.
Thank you very much. Please indulge me. I have two quick questions before I get into the talk. Please raise your hand up here on the council if you do not drive an internal combustion vehicle. Two of you. Okay. Thank you. Please raise your hand if you power your home with 100% clean electricity. So none of you. Okay. Thank you. I urge you to provide Santa Monica residents with the opportunity to choose clean solar energy over SoCal Edison's dirty energy. For the average American, and certainly for all the people in this room, using dirty energy is the most harmful thing you will do in your entire life. Defined as energy generated from oil, coal, and gas, dirty energy causes millions of deaths worldwide every year, according to the World Health Organization. Good people do not purposely cause harm to humans, but that's precisely what you do when you use dirty energy, either dirty electricity or drive an internal combustion engine. So many of you are actually causing harm to people right now. Santa Monica has made a decent start by encouraging people to drive EVs, but much more needs to be done installing more chargers so people who cannot charge their EVs at home can get access to clean electricity. But that's an item for a future council meeting. Tonight, you can start the process that will allow all Santa Monica residents to power their homes with clean solar energy. Community choice energy is gaining popularity in many communities as a low-cost way for everyone to choose a cleaner option. Specifically, I recommend you go with South Bay Clean Power, since Joe Galliani has more experience with CCEs than almost anyone in California. And finally, the process should be fast-tracked so that we have this clean option available no later than 1 year from today. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Giroux?
Well, good evening. I'm Gary Giroux. I'm the Chief Sustainability Officer for the County of Los Angeles, so I'll keep my comments brief and be happy to answer questions. And I want to start by saying I don't know what sniping is going on, but I want to thank South Bay Clean Power and Joe Galliani for all the work that he's done in organizing cities in the South Bay. It's been tremendously powerful to see that coalition come together. We're excited that Santa Monica is taking this issue seriously and giving these options serious consideration. And I want to say that the county is moving very quickly to create a truly regional community choice energy program from cities across the county. And we're developing a structure, have developed a structure that provides individual cities with the ability to opt in at a level that meets their renewable energy priorities. So we'll have 3 tiers, and if you want 50% renewable for your community, that's an option that will be available to you. We've talked about the governance structures. I think under our last calculation, you were the 6th largest city. The county, as a voting share on a weighted share, has about 15%. So by no means us and Long Beach, the 2nd largest, can dominate anything. And we've actually put limits in the JPA on the power to call for a weighted vote and the circumstances under which that can occur. But we think that this is really a chance for to create significant regional impacts on moving cleaner energy, more local jobs, lower cost energy forward on a broad scale. And we look forward to the kind of leadership that Santa Monica has shown to move that agenda on as broadly as possible across the county. So we want to work with you. We're happy to answer questions. We want to make a structure that works and that can accommodate your needs. We're developing a program that will decarbonize, diversify, have distributed energy, and be democratized. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Campbell.
Good evening, Mayor and Santa Monica City Council members. I'm Bruce Campbell. It's so nice to see community choice energy, community choice aggregation on the council's agenda. As many of you council members may recall, I've been asking questions about CCAs for more than a decade in candidate interview questions. It is wise to pursue community choice energy in order for Santa Monica consumers to get hopefully 100% of its electricity from alternative sources in the not too distant future. Southern California Edison and PG&E up north have been pressuring for too long to squelch decentralized alternative energy, particularly rooftop solar. Plus, SCE also installed the San Onofre nuclear reactor vessel 180 degrees backward, noticed it 7 months later, decided to rewire the control room and turn other things around to fit the backward reactor. Hopefully our new California Attorney General will pursue the investigation in regards to the PUC reaching a rate deal with an Edison executive on a napkin at the Warsaw Hotel in Poland to forego paying for the replacement Mitsubishi Heavy Industry steam generator, which Edison tried to get too much juice out of, and then had to shut down that reactor. It is time to leave SCE behind, except for using their power lines and receiving their bills. Solar and wind are now cheaper than coal and are lots cheaper than nuclear, and we don't need to pay the profit for SCE investors. And seeing that it is further along than the county CCA, I recommend that Santa Monica particularly look into joining the South Bay Clean Power JPA. I also like the green job and environmental justice points made by Climate Action Santa Monica. And lastly, an affirmative vote on this will earn you a date with Mother Earth on this Valentine's Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Ms. Kropke, before you come up, I'll call a few more names. Joe Galliani, Judy Abdo, and Joe Sullivan. Please.
Gosh, that was challenging to follow, but I'll try. Good evening, all. My name is Jennifer Kropke. I'm the Chair of Sustainable Workforce Development at IBEW Local 11. I'm here speaking on behalf of our 12,000 members to voice support for a CCA done properly. By that, I mean a CCA with an emphasis on distributed energy resources build-out. Think solar arrays, battery storage, microgrids, electric vehicle charging. We provide the skilled labor, and we're very excited about the green jobs engine that a CCA with a DER emphasis will provide. We've been working with South Bay Clean Power as a partner since 2015. I know it's a crazy thought, labor and environmental groups working together. Yes, we are doing this. We are coming together for a common cause. We've reviewed a draft of the business plan. We strongly support it, and we're excited about the emphasis on good, local, green jobs that pay family-sustaining wages. And we also want to thank the City of Santa Monica for their leadership on these environmental issues, and we look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, honorable members of the council. I am Joe Galliani of South Bay Clean Power. It's a delight to be here. On this Valentine's Day, I am lucky enough to be here with my beloved wife of 35 years who has been here with me all night, and I must honor her at this moment or I am in trouble when I get home. My wife happens to work here in Santa Monica, and this is a city I have loved since I first moved here in 1976, where I became your host at Zucchi's Deli for many years. We've all come a long way since then. And my love for Santa Monica has only grown over the last 41 years. As you have led the way on environmental issues and inspired people like me to action through your example. I have worked full-time on environmental issues since 2007 and became the founding organizer of the South Bay Los Angeles 350 Climate Action Group in 2009. My unrelenting mission is to preserve a livable climate and hasten the transition from fossil fuels to 100% renewable energy in order to meet our greenhouse gas emission goals. Towards that end, 3 years ago, I turned my full-time attention and work to community choice aggregation and helping my community and surrounding communities launch the most effective and progressive CCAs that are possible. In that time, we have built a significant and effective grassroots community-led effort that now enjoys the support and participation of labor, the environmental and justice communities, businesses and stakeholders, academia, and elected representatives at the city, county, state, and federal level. In 2014, we came to the County of Los Angeles for help and partnership as soon as we had a viable number of cities committed to participating in a feasibility study. We've worked closely with county staff and their CCA consultants. We love them. And we have worked particularly closely with staff in Supervisor Kuehl's office and former Supervisor Kanabe's office. We've been transparent and inclusive in our meetings, communications, and actions. We believe the South Bay Clean Power CCA business plan, which we will deliver to your city later this week, along with the draft JPA, deserves your consideration. Quickly, CCAs do in Marin offer enhanced net energy metering to all solar customers. Last year, Marin distributed $1 million in checks to existing solar owners. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Abdo?
Hi. I am part of Climate Action Santa Monica as well, and I think you have so many options here. I think just from hearing everybody talk, Santa Monica is like the most desired city, and everybody wants you. So that's a great position to be in, but it means that you really have to do your homework really well to decide what's best for the city, not what's best for the county or for Lancaster or for South Bay. It's what's best for the residents of the city as environmental leaders in this country. So I like, from your questions, it's sounding like most of you are wanting to look at all the options and to look more deeply into all the options. And I think that's really what you should do, because it's very exciting. We will be very, very much in the leadership of wherever we as Santa Monica are. So go forward.
Thank you. Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Hold on one second. I'll call the last two speakers, Freeman Hall and Andrew Hoyer. Welcome, Mr. Sullivan.
Happy Valentine's Day. My name is Joseph Sullivan. I work for IBEW Local 11 in the National Electrical Contractors Association. It's about 350 local contractors here in Los Angeles that employ about 10,000 electricians. I want to start by thanking Santa Monica for the leadership role you've played in sustainable energy with cities across the county. So what we've found is that CCAs, when properly structured with a commitment to local build-out, apprenticeship training, no unbundled recs, are wonderful job creators. They create careers that change neighborhoods, change families. The labor required in Los Angeles, required for sustainable energy, including solar farms for CCAs, has caused us to hire hundreds and hundreds of apprentices in the last year. The apprenticeship program is remarkable. It's a 5-year training program at no cost, not even books or tools. It prepares them for all aspects of the electrical industry to work in the industry for life. We focus on hiring local people, disadvantaged communities, veterans, returning veterans, people with records. And it has great pay, great pension, and great medical and family benefits. So CCAs can make this change. We've had a chance to review the documents from South Bay Clean Power, the JPA and the business plan. We find that it's in total alignment with our vision and philosophy. Whatever you guys look at, we very much like their documents and what they've showed us. So that's all I have to say. We appreciate you going down this path. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Hall, you're up.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. My name is Freeman Hall. I'm the president of Solar Electric Solutions. We're a developer of 2 to 20 megawatt solar projects that sell into the wholesale market, sell to the utilities. We've got about 80 megawatts of projects up in operation in Southern California, largely in SCE territory. I'm a big believer, I think, in the potential for CCAs. There's a number of them operating in the state, as you're all aware. I'm a big supporter of what the county's doing, what South Bay is doing. I think probably all of us feel that way. So really the question, as was put earlier by another commentator, was what's best for the city? And I would strongly encourage you guys to make sure that the option for Santa Monica to form its own independent CCA is studied closely. The reality is that the costs now to generate clean power have come way down. You used to have big scale. You would need that to have cost-effective power. The revolution in distributed generation has arrived. Costs are much lower, so you don't need to be a huge entity to procure power cost-effectively. The standalone CCA really gets around all the governance and control issues that being part of a larger JPA brings with it. And meanwhile, Santa Monica has very strong credit. The number one factor in procuring cost-effective energy is strong credit. And that's what the city can bring only if it has the control. So Santa Monica has the potential to be in a very enviable position. And let me just add that because of the revolution happening in energy these days, and I think this City Council understands that, The city has the ability to use a CCA to further its aims around the city yards microgrid project, perhaps the Big Blue Bus program and making that all electric. Some of those programs already in your capital improvement plans could be funded by a CCA. So please consider those synergies. Thank you.
Thank you. And Andrew Hoyer, I don't see you, so that will conclude the public comment. And council members, matters before us. Councilmember McEwen.
Well, Council, when I stepped outside a few moments ago, I discovered there's 40 or 50 people downstairs waiting for our later items on Standing Rock, religious discrimination, and immigration. So I'm going to cut to the chase here. Mr. Scott asked if any of us up here had 100% renewable energy at home, and I shamefacedly had to say no now, but I used to. There used to be a company called Commonwealth America from whom I could purchase 100% renewable energy, and I did that for many years until the state PUC and the corporate energy companies changed the rules and raised the price to where it was just not practical for a single apartment dweller to be doing that anymore. We have the chance now to do that again, and I would be honored to be the city's council representative as we move forward on this. I realize, as someone said, there's a lot of interest in us. We have the county, we have the South Bay group, we have Lancaster, we have third parties. There are multiple suitors, and on Valentine's Day, I hate to play hard to get, but I think that's really what we need to do at this point. If I am able to represent us, what I want to try to do is to balance our interests in having representation in decision-making, exercising leadership in the region, exercising our ability to deliver 100% renewable, which I think should be our goal, not just partially renewable, make sure that the cost is reasonable to our residents and our businesses, and move us forward with deliberate speed in pursuing these goals. So I'd like to move this forward, but I'm hoping somebody else will nominate me to be the council member to do it.
You're the only one who knew what a gigawatt was. Councilmember Hemmerich.
I'd like to nominate Councilmember.
Well, okay. Well, so the first we're supposed to entertain a motion to provide the direction on staff on what of the available CCA options we should continue to pursue. So why don't we take a stab at that first?
Well, is there any reason that we can't pursue all three? Because it's my understanding that at a minimum we want to pursue the South Bay and doing it ourselves, which I think will get us there faster. But if it appears that LA is moving faster than we could possibly do it, which it doesn't sound as if it is, it looks as if we should explore the second two with the option to move into the LA option if it appears to be moving a little faster than it's moving now. Is that
right? We can certainly participate actively with your direction in LA County's discussions and also South Bay Clean Power. Staff will be meeting with Lancaster Clean Energy, and we can do our own research looking into setting up our own CCA. If we were to do a full evaluation of that and look at what the potential risks and costs to the city would be, that would likely require some budget authorization to spend some money to do that.
And you would have to come back to us at a later date with that, correct? Would that be the $77,000 that Lancaster wants, or
that would be the $77,000, or we could go out and put out an RFP and hire a company to do that for us.
Okay, but
if we didn't want Lancaster,
but probably the same order of magnitude of funding.
Right.
Yeah. It sounds to me as if what we should do is participate in Los Angeles and in South Bay, and at the same time on a parallel track, investigate the feasibility of having our own CCA, whether with Lancaster or getting more budget authority from us.
So is that a motion?
Yes, that's a motion.
Is there a second? Second by Councilmember O'Day, moved by Councilmember Emmerich.
I have a question for Dane. Is it different than what you have up there? Because it seems like it covers all of that.
the
I
recommended
think the one
action-
thing we didn't say, and I think it's important that we didn't say it, is that we're not interested in not pursuing this at all.
Right.
I'm hearing unanimous interest in
Yes.
pursuing.
I don't think there's any issue about that. And Denise, I think that we're pursuing really two community CCA pathways. One to join either LA County or South Bay, and the other is to form our own.
There are multiple options on how we could form our own. So,
Right.
as I said, we're sort of playing hard to get.
All right, Councilmember Vasquez, did you have something to say? You're in the queue. You'll need to turn on your mic.
I think you covered it, although, did you, I think it's really looking at two JPAs and one CCA, isn't it?
Well, the JPAs formed the CCA, so it's looking at
But aren't they
three
different?
seasons.
Or are they the same? That's what I thought.
Yeah,
Two
there's,
different JPOs.
Right, and then one CCA, right?
they're all
They're all
CCAs.
CCAs, but not all GPAs, okay. Okay.
And
All
should I
peas are
further move the
vegetables.
resolution? Is that, now that I've provided the
Well,
direction?
let's do this one and then we'll do
Okay.
the next one. So, let's have a roll call vote on this first motion.
Actually, you can do that one by voice.
Voice.
It's direction.
What-
We'll come
the
back
second-
for money later.
It's just direction.
All right, so we'll do a voice vote on this. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I,
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, so that carries unanimously. And now I need a motion to adopt the resolution that's before us and to appoint a council representative. I assume that staff will appoint their own liaison.
I would just recommend that council authorize the city manager to appoint a staff liaison.
All right, so we will, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the resolution that we want to pursue these goals and to appoint a council member and direct the manager to appoint the staff liaison and alternate.
Did you have any
So
council member in
moved.
mind?
And I move we
Well,
appoint
no,
council
I'm
member
asking for
Chua.
someone to make the motion.
Okay, I move that we adopt a resolution establishing a platform. Well, let me start with this. I adopt a resolution that we explore the possibilities of engaging.
Well, there's a specific resolution in the staff report
Just
that
what
we're
the-
supposed to
yeah.
adopt.
So you just need what he said, you moved it.
yeah.
Okay.
Let's
The
let me
mayor's
get you.
motion.
Let him
I'll,
read it
I'll
off.
move that we
Adopt, appoint,
adopt the
and authorize.
resolution
Thank
in
you.
our staff report and appoint Councilmember McEwen as our staff representative and our council representative. And it's getting late, people. And
That's
it
city
is-
manager.
and empower the city manager to appoint the staff liaison and alternate.
Second.
All right. So
Third.
Second.
moved by me
And who's second?
and seconded by Councilmember O'Day.
Okay.
And we do need a roll call vote on this, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, Councilmember O'Connor?
Yes.
Councilmember O'Day?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Davis?
Yes.
Councilmember Himmerich?
Yes.
Councilmember Vasquez?
Yes.
Councilmember McCune?
Yes.
And Mayor Winter?
Yes, that carries unanimously 7-0.
Okay, so now we'll move on to item 13A. Request of
Thank you.
council members O'Day, O'Connor, and Mayor Winter to request of staff to prepare an update to the council on the status of the Bike Action Plan adopted 6 years ago and how it is harmonized with the Vision Zero objective in our pedestrian action plan. Also provide an update on implementation of the pedestrian action plan. And you have no request to speak on this one.
Councilmember O'Day O'Connor, you want to take the lead on this?
I can take a shot. If you ask anyone familiar with our community what has been the most visible change to our physical environment over the last decade, I think a lot of the responses that would come back would recognize the growth in the use of bikes in our community and the improvements in our bike infrastructure. Much of that is driven by a national bike movement, but also in part by the Bike Action Plan we adopted 6 years ago. And when we adopted that plan, we intentionally did not create a bike master plan. We wanted to get infrastructure improvements on the ground as soon as possible, actionable projects. And I think that's partly why we got such great results. Additionally, the Expo line showed up And in the past year, we also adopted our Vision Zero objective, which is now built into our pedestrian action plan. This is the time to take a look at how all of those plans now come together and work together. Many of the projects listed in the action plan have been implemented, and yet we know that there are some gaps that we didn't foresee at the time we wrote that plan. And I think it's important to create a list of what those gaps are, to think about what the next steps can be for our action plan, and to create a vision that incorporates our Vision Zero objectives in our pedestrian action plan. So this would produce a motion to ask the staff to give us an update on these elements and how they work together. Other speakers?
We have no request to speak on this. Councilmember Vasquez.
So I'll make it a motion if you're ready.
No, I'm fine with it. I just had a question. So does this mean that we get reports back from the staff in terms of the current bike lanes that we have, how they're doing, and in terms of safety as well? Because I still get some concerns, especially like on Ocean Park Boulevard, whether in fact that was a good choice versus maybe Pearl Street as an example.
Yeah, I think that's a good example, and safety is the key objective, and it's those bike lanes that we built, but also the ones that we haven't built that we still can to improve towards a safety goal.
All right.
So do I need a second?
I'll second if you need a second.
All right, motion by Councilmember O'Day, second by Councilmember Vasquez. Any discussion? We can do a voice vote on this, correct?
Yes, you
All
can.
in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. That carries unanimously. Clerk, call 13B, please.
Sure. Item 13B, request of Mayor Pro Tem Davis, Mayor Winter, and Councilmember Vasquez that the council allocate $10,000 of discretionary funds to Mount Olive Lutheran Church and the Bruin Shelter to assist with the permitting fees for the operation of their student-run shelter for UCLA and SMC students experiencing homelessness. The funds will be available for 60 days, allowing and encouraging our educational partners to make matching contributions, and you have 2 requests to speak.
Mayor Pro Tem Davis, why don't you run with this one?
All right, I'll be very brief. I think a lot of people in the community know that Mount Olive Church on Ocean Park has been very generous in offering space to the Bruin Shelter to assist in alleviating homelessness among UCLA and SMC students. Obviously, working to reduce and hopefully someday alleviate homelessness is one of our 5 strategic goals. In order to permit the shelter, there are a number of fees that the city imposes, and what we are doing here is providing a partial reimbursement for some of those fees that hopefully the Bruin Shelter and others can then use as a matching opportunity to contribute to the fee costs as well. So this is designed to encourage our partners to give, but also obviously we support the idea of getting homeless students into a shelter situation.
That was well said. We'll hear from the public. First from Sean Landers, Chair of the Social Services Commission, and then from Reverend Eric Schaefer from Mount Olive Church. Welcome.
Good evening, Council. My name is Sean Landris, and I chair the Social Services Commission. At our October 24th meeting, the Commission resolves that it quotes, notes with concern the problem of college student homelessness, commends the organizers of the Bruin Shelter and Mount Olive Lutheran Church for their efforts to address the challenge, and calls for a collaborative regional effort to ensure that all college students are securely housed. However, the Commission doesn't meet until February 27th and has not taken a specific position on this item, so I'm here as an individual to support the request. Easing the burden of city-mandated permitting fees for Bruin Shelter helps address the crisis of college student homelessness. As the California-based Community College Equity Assessment Lab reported this past year, approximately 1/3 of community college students experience the threat of homelessness and housing instability, and 12% face the threat of hunger. Mount Olive Lutheran Church, along with its staff, congregants, and affiliates, deserve only praise for their commitment here. Faith-based groups, especially when they are committed to the strictest standards of equal protection, non-discrimination, and financial accountability, are vital to the fabric of our social safety net, and far be it from any of us to stand in the way of members of our community who wish to step up with their own voluntary gifts of resources and expertise for the public good. But the proposed contribution should not distract from or undermine our strategic focus on building regional solutions to our homelessness and housing insecurity crises. Santa Monica has made substantial, even disproportionate investments, and we still need regional funding partnerships, whether through our 3 higher education systems, federal, state, and county social service infrastructure, or via philanthropy. Other jurisdictions must share responsibility for ensuring that all students can learn without going hungry or unhoused. So thank you very much, and yes on Measure H.
Reverend Schaefer.
My role this evening, almost this morning, is to just say thank you for this initiative and to just tell you that since the shelter opened in October, we already graduated our first senior. I provided a safe place for him to finish his education and go on to his occupation. And we are going to be graduating a number of seniors in the spring. The shelter is a great success. It has zero impact on the community, the support of our neighbors, the unanimous support of our congregation, which in some ways is a bit unbelievable. There has been no NIMBY in our congregation or neighborhood, and actually it's a positive thing in our neighborhood because we're putting people in that building all night that are actually going around the property and checking the property at midnight, 2 and 4 a.m. So it's more secure in our neighborhood than it was before the shelter was there. So it's just been a round of success. The first night we were open, it rained, and we got kids off the street and out of their cars. So it's just been a wonderful ministry for us, and we're so grateful for your support.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Davis.
Well, then I'd like to move that we allocate $10,000 of our discretionary funds to Mount Olive Lutheran Church and the Bruin Shelter to assist them with the permitting fees for the operation of their student-run shelter for UCLA and SMC students experiencing homelessness.
All right, moved by Mayor Pro Tem Davis, seconded by Councilmember O'Connor, and we will need a roll call vote since we're spending money. Councilmember Heinrich, you got a question?
No, I'm just the one.
Okay.
Councilmember McKeown?
Yes.
Councilmember Vasquez?
Yes.
Councilmember Himmelrich?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Davis?
Yes.
Councilmember O'Day?
Yes.
Councilmember O'Connor?
Yes.
And Mayor Winter?
Yes, so that carries 7-0. Can the clerk call item 13C, please?
Yes. Item 13C, request of council members O'Day and Vasquez that the council direct staff to examine its investment practices and consider divesting all city funds from Wells Fargo due to the business practices and their involvement in financing the Dakota Access Pipeline, and you have 25 requests to speak.
Okay, well, why don't you push your button and explain to us why you're recusing yourself?
I will. So I have to recuse myself for 15 years when I was in law practice. Before I worked at Western Center, I represented Wells Fargo. And today my husband represents Wells Fargo. So it's sort of a double whammy, and I'm sorry, but I have to recuse myself.
All right, so we will wait briefly for Councilmember Himmelrich to exit.
Can I make a suggestion, Sue? Just 1 second. Were you planning on coming back for 13D? Can I move that we switch it so she can just go home then? If we've got 25 speakers, that's an hour.
She's got T and E.
Oh.
There's an E.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I think these people have been waiting here all night long.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, that's fine. I was just, you're going to take some food with you.
All right, so Councilmembers O'Day and Vasquez, who would like to introduce this item?
I'll start, and I guess and then I'm sure Councilmember O'Day has. So, in light of, for me, it's been more of a history with Wells Fargo. Looking back at some of the practices they've had over the last at least 25 years that I've been interacting with that specific bank, and I think they've had some real bad practices with many of our homeowners, dating back to the strength when the Century Freeway came through. on the 105 freeway. Many of those folks that lost their homes through this predatory lending, one of the leading banks on that was Wells Fargo, as an example. And then just recently, some of the practices that we've seen and heard about where they were just creating these accounts that folks weren't even aware of it, and ended up finding out that they were getting charged and fees on these folks because there was such an incentive from the banks, the corporate banks, to get their staff to create more both checking accounts and other accounts that exist within the bank. And now the most recent one that comes to light, which I know most of the folks here in the audience today are going to be speaking to, is their practices on some of these environmental injustices that they're doing in Dakota. So for me, I'd like to see what we can do to explore other options that we have as we do services with some of these corporate banks that are a little bit more responsible.
Councilmember Day?
Yeah, I'll just add that we have a great number of people out here to speak. So to be brief, if you're paying any attention to national media today, and in fact global, you know that one of the most substantive and symbolic fights for our future is happening today at Standing Rock over the Dakota Access Pipeline. And it is a fight over sovereignty and respect of Native people. It's about the respect of humanity and the future of humanity. And the movement to stop the Dakota Access Pipeline has begun to target its sources of capital. Wells Fargo is a key lender to the project, and 2 other cities on the West Coast now have decided to divest and to stop doing business with Wells Fargo. This item before us would consider doing the same here in Santa Monica, as we have a significant relationship with Wells Fargo. The demonstration of support here today is so inspiring, and it is a Valentine's Day for the next 3 minutes that we have all of these folks showing up, and I want to encourage people to show their support. Because it is late, I think we all know, importantly, what side most folks will be speaking on. But also keep in mind that while we're asking folks here to stay as late as we have, keep in mind that it is probably right now below freezing in Standing Rock, and there are people fighting every day for this cause. So I hope that we'll be able to direct our staff to develop a plan to make divestiture happen, to cut our business practices with Wells Fargo, and to bring us in line with our investment policies that we adopted as a city. We have adopted a policy that is governed by 350.org's list of companies that we cannot invest in our holdings, but it has not yet been applied to financial institutions. And this new effort that's represented by the activists who are fighting against Dakota Access Pipeline would take us to the next generation of implementing our values with our business relationships and the way that we invest our dollars.
All right, and with that, we will open the
I'll stay as long as I can, but I probably have to leave about 12:30. So.
all right.
You'll be done.
Okay, so we will open the public input. We'll start with Linda Pierre-Avila, Valerie Bischoff, Desmond O'Regan, and Lydia Ponce. And if you've heard your name, if you could go line up against the wall over there in order so we can hear everybody expeditiously. Welcome.
Thank you, Santa Monica City Council members. My name is Linda Piera Avila. I live at 1424 12th Street here in town. I'm going to be reading a statement from a friend of mine, a Tongva elder named Gloria Arayanas, who could not be with us tonight. As follows: Santa Monica City Council, I am a Tongva elder. I reside in El Monte, California. Because the city of Santa Monica is within the Tongva tribal territory, I am submitting this statement to support and encourage your discussion and examination of the investment practices used in all city funds from Wells Fargo Bank as presented by Council Members O'Day and Vasquez. Wells Fargo has had problems with their financial practices recently. In addition, Wells Fargo is one of several banks that specifically funds the Dakota Access Pipeline in North Dakota, where treaty issues, sacred sites, and burials are under attack. This pipeline will eventually take oil to the Gulf of Mexico and be exported overseas. It has already been determined that it will not provide permanent jobs in large numbers and will leak, as it already has, causing environmental devastation to water, land, and animals, including human health issues. We as a country must break our dependency from the fossil fuel industry and protect our natural resources, the air, the water, our beautiful Mother Earth, the animals, and most importantly, our children, our grandchildren, and all our future generations. It is my and many others' hopes the Santa Monica City Council will vote to divest from Wells Fargo Bank and send them the message that the funding of pipelines is the past and that there are clean forms of energy. I thank you for the opportunity to provide these words and support for Standing Rock and no Dakota Access Pipeline. Gloria Arellano's Tongva Elder. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bischoff?
Hello, City Council members. Thank you for taking the time to consider this very important topic. I'm a Santa Monica resident, and I'm here to urge you to consider divesting all city funds from Wells Fargo due to their fraudulent business practices and funding of the Dakota Access Pipeline. I visited Standing Rock twice as a filmmaker, and I was appalled to see and hear stories of blatant disregard for human rights in the name of private profits. Doctors, lawyers, musicians, teachers, people just like you and me that want their children to be able to drink the same water that they drink now, have been jailed and brutalized for exercising their First Amendment rights and their treaty rights. All this to further dirty energy that contributes to climate change. When I returned from Standing Rock for the first time, I decided to move my personal finances out of Bank of America, which is another bank that's funding the pipeline. If we really want to see a greener world of greater equity and justice, we have to put our money where our values are. I know that the city of Santa Monica shares my values, and that's why I'm proud to call myself a Santa Monica resident. Thanks to the forward-thinking decisions of this council, Santa Monica already leads the way in sustainability, human rights, and environmental best practices. Your commitment to building a better world is reflected in the council's recent decisions to turn the airport into a park, working to address homelessness, and approving policies that value diversity, a greener future, and well-being. Divesting from the Dakota Access Pipeline is an opportunity for the city of Santa Monica to stand with other forward-thinking cities and lead the way in creating innovative ways to finance city governments that will help build a better world for us all. We can't let Seattle and Davis show us up. Let's do this.
Thank you. Desmond O'Regan?
Lydia Ponce, Venice resident.
I had a Desmond O'Regan first. Is he here?
He's behind me.
Hi, thank you for staying so late. I just want to say I was born down the street at St. John's Hospital, down the street, and I live in Burbank now, but I'm here to speak to you about the Dakota Access Pipeline. And while I was waiting out there, while you guys talked about God knows what, all I could think about was how beautiful the city was and how you could see everywhere that it puts people first. The parks, the pedestrian walkways, the bike paths, everything. And the fact that we're here tonight at midnight talking about this. And it's really impressive. And I just really want to say thank you for considering this. And I hope that, other small towns like maybe Los Angeles might follow your lead. So thank you.
Thank you. And hold on 1 second, Ms. Ponce, we'll call a few more names. Emiliano Martinez, George
Funmaker.
Okay. And Erica Weiss. Welcome.
Thank you. We'd stay here however long it would take because we have many people who have suffered greatly at Standing Rock, and even the ones who have returned home are still decompressing from the trauma that they've suffered in order to protect the land and the water, and additionally the people that reside there. It is there's no amount of love or prayer that could even measure the artillery that is used to defeat those prayers, but we still stand strong, and I stand strong before you because I have my family and my friends here. The fact is that those pipelines all across the United States, Canada, Mexico, and all around the world are connected to man camps, and approximately 2,000 employed men are responsible for the violence that is caused against Indigenous women, murdered, missing, and when they're found dead, their relatives, women who have been sexually assaulted and abused over and over by several of those men. So this travesty, this crime, this act against it's inhumane. It's a crime against humanity. It's tied into the money that's sitting in Wells Fargo and all these other great corporations that fuel capitalist nations. So what I'm asking is that you put the women first. It's to put your mother first, your grandmother, your sister, your niece, your daughters. You put them first. You put the money into a credit union. Not only will you sleep better, we'll know where our daughters are, where our sisters are. So I'm asking you as a woman, as a grandmother, to please do that for us, because you'll be standing with us as you sit, but you'll be standing with us. It'll mean so much to everyone from here to Standing Rock and back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for taking the time to hear us out, and we applaud you for even considering this motion. This will really give us energy, give us the will to keep going on and go from city to city, pulling the money out from these banks that are supporting the pipeline. And so if you could please pass this resolution today, or whatever you do, divest, it's going to bring great encouragement to our movement and to those people that have been there on the front line. I've been up to Standing Rock. I saw it for myself, and the people don't want it there. It threatens the water, and we can't support these kind of projects that are threatening the future generations to come. It's not our world anymore. It belongs to the generations to come, 7 generations to come, and we must keep that in mind when everything we do and say here today. So thank you with that, and pass that resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. George?
Haumitakeape, chante washte nape chauzape. Wamnuha duta imachapi, miniwa kan eate tonhawahi. Hunkmina kengaide, hunchichi karacha wanje. I greet all of you in my indigenous tongue. I am a Dakota Sioux from Spirit Lake, North Dakota, and also a member of the Ho-Chunk Nation of Wisconsin. And today I come to you and ask that you divest from Wells Fargo, because Wells Fargo funds indigenous genocide. And we are protecting the water, we are protecting the land for our children. We want our children, our great-grandchildren, to have water. So we ask you to respect indigenous people for once. I was sad to see the murals in front of the city hall. When you first walk in, there's a picture of Juanapero Serra, and indigenous people are at their feet, like some subservient kind of degrading image of indigenous people at the foot of the Europeans, the conquistadors. The Juanapero Serra is responsible for indigenous genocide in California. So all that is connected to the pipeline, because this pipeline was supposed to originally go through Bismarck, North Dakota, and Bismarck, North Dakota is the majority of the population is white people. So the white citizens didn't stand for that. So they moved the pipeline to an Indian reservation down south. So this pipeline, represents a lot of things, white privilege, and all of you are white men, white people. So you have a responsibility to reconcile what your ancestors did to my ancestors. So you have a chance to make amends to the original people of this land, and you all benefit. Your children benefit. So I ask you to stand in solidarity with indigenous people for one time, and let's be proud of Santa Monica that they stood with the indigenous people. So I thank you for your time, and mitau kese. Ahu.
Thank you. Erica White. And hold on, Erica, while I call a few more names. Roberto Villarreal, Chris Gutierrez, Jonathan Foster, and Justine Larson.
Good evening.
I'm sorry, but who are you?
Oh.
Erica White's is next.
I'll make this quick. I think that Santa Monica is in a place right now to be a leader and to use your money as your vote. And the public has made it very clear that we do not want this pipeline, that we would descend into chaos if we were all cut off from water. And water is life. Water is the first medicine, and we need to protect that in any way we can. I also saw the mural out in the lobby, and I find it really offensive. And I think that actions should be taken to replace that mural. I'm a painter. I'll give you a good deal. So.
Thank you. Now, Roberto, you're up.
Good evening. My name is Roberto Villarreal. I was born and raised in Watts. I have a passion for the Indian people, the bearers of this land, the people that showed the Anglo-Saxon how to survive on this land, and still they're genociding them. I'm here to beg and plead for you guys to divest, from Wells Fargo. I do listen to Democracy Now! Every morning, and it was heartbreaking to hear a lady being bit by a dog who had blood all over his mouth. Like it was mentioned earlier, imagine that was one of your daughters, your mom, your grandmother, being attacked by a dog by people whose rights has been trampled on by generation by the Anglo-Saxon white man. Their burial sites are being destroyed. They're being tortured with power hose at freezing weather already. They're using militant tactics on them. And the missing women are just like missing women from Juarez. They're being found raped and murdered. And I would like for you guys to divest. Think about the future, the water. If they build this pipeline, eventually the whole ocean is going to be contaminated, bottom line. So thank you. That's my point of view.
Thank you for your thoughts.
So I used to teach in South Central Los Angeles, and some of the most moving experiences I had with the young people were our studies of the indigenous. This is not a textbook situation. This is a life situation. And when we call upon each of our young people to understand they are historical beings, it is also to contend with how each of us can be colonized. Not only the indigenous, as you've already heard, but our mindset as we deal in a capitalist society. I'm really gratified that this is on the agenda. I'm tremendously inspired by the morning breaking and all these people here with us to stand for what we can do so many thousands of miles away from Standing Rock. So please move this forward and demonstrate to the young people and all of us that our values are vivid in how we spend each moment and each coin that we have. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Foster. I am only a one-drop Choctaw Indian. So let's do this to all the banks. Is that okay? Or is it okay to just do this to Wells Fargo? Why not all the banks? anything I'd say, they'll say, so I support this, but I'd like to bring it home here. The Tongva Indians Park over there should be given to the Tongva Indians. They should be able to do whatever they want with that park and be given more land. All Indians should enjoy no sales tax, no property tax, 15% commission on all land sales every time, 1% commission on all rentals per month. How did a real estate industry make so many billionaires? To do this, they had to murder the Indians off the land. Trump and his buddy Carl Icahn, all these real estate billionaires, what would 15% of Trump's $4.5 billion come to that should be paid to the Carnegie Lenape Indians of Manhattan? About $600+ million. So tremendous fraud is being committed against these people still. Full Blood speak of the murals depicting Indians. Isn't this the same thing the city is doing, trying to make itself look good? Making a park, calling it Tongva Indian Park? And why aren't we giving something real and substantial to these Tongva Indians? Where did I write that? Yeah, let's see here. Trying to make itself look good. Yeah, but never giving them anything real. Isn't that kind of sick to do? I mean, if we paid them the 15%, I mean, would they be broke and not having to be able to, do anything on the reservation and being kidnapped and raped? I mean, they would be able to protect themselves. They'd have $600+ million, all of the tribes. In Mississippi, it's the Choctaw Indians in Mississippi.
Thank you, Mr. Foster. Justine Larson? No, Justine Larson. I'm going to call some more names. If you could line up, please. Alex, looks like Poe or Pock. It's hard to read. Paula Kahn, Shannon Rivers, Chris Littlehawk, and Debbie Jones. Any of those people here? Alex that I called here? Well, let's just take someone and we'll work our way through. What's your name?
I'm Paula Khan.
Okay, welcome.
Hi, everyone. So, I'm Quiche Mayan, and I'm here to invite you all to take this wonderful opportunity to shift investments from Wells Fargo and other banks that are invested in the Dakota Access Pipeline. Between 2015 and 2016, there was 69 reported incidents of gas leaks and ruptures in pipelines that were ran by Energy Transfer Partners. And so that's, direct evidence that this isn't really something that has a really great return on the environment. So please consider that. We can't really function without water, so we're already seeing the grave effects of contamination in our resources. It's absolutely detrimental to our existence. We all want to exist, don't we? We want to have our children survive, and we want our children to have children, so please consider how detrimental it is to our existence. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Alex here? All right, Shannon Rivers.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, or should I say good morning, and council members. My name is Shannon Rivers. I'm from the state of Arizona, but I'm currently employed at UCLA and a student at UCLA. I don't think I need to talk too much about what I think already is going to happen, is that you will divest because you have the sanity and the humanity and the recognition and the respect for other human beings. And the reality is that we need to do this, not just for me or for you, but as mentioned, for all our children. We live in a time of xenophobia and racism and prejudices. And when it's most difficult for us to even honor people of color and people of color being arrested on the street, we have to face these fears, and that the reality is that we are here together, and that we want to make the world, the place, this place, better for our people, for all people, not just people in North Dakota, but people here in Los Angeles. And I want to honor you as a committee, as a council, for all the beautiful work that you've done. I'm proud to live here. I'm proud to come to this place, and I'm proud of you for actually putting this on your agenda. Thank you so much for having us here tonight.
Thank you. Chris Littlehawk.
Hello, you guys. How you guys doing? Not much to speaker, but just let you guys know that in where I'm from is Pine Ridge, South Dakota, concentration camp 344. What is happening in Dakota Access Pipeline, again, what George has announced, that Bismarck just sent it down there. And here's another thing that you guys should divest. Oil companies is a dying breed. That they're saying up there that 11 different oil companies have divested and went nothing to do there because in the Bakken oil field in North Dakota where all this is happening, meaning all the oil is already drained up dry, and yet all these companies are still trying to do that. So again, they reported 708 spills, but the company only reports 20 spills, and that's in North Dakota alone since last year. Again, 11 companies don't want to have nothing to do with it because there's nothing in the Bakken. But again, thank you guys very much. Pilar Milo. Hasta.
Thank you. Debbie Jones. And hold on 1 second, Debbie. I'll call some more names. Walter Ruiz. Catherine. Looks like Guerrero Yanez. Nick Yanez. And Kaya Foster. Debbie, the floor is yours.
Good evening. I think we all realize what's going on at Standing Rock and with the pipeline is so wrong on so many levels, and you have an opportunity to make a very strong statement against it, and I hope you will take advantage of that.
Thank you. Walter Ruiz.
My name is Gray Wolf. I'm the director of AIM Southern California. I've been to Standing Rock twice. I was on the front line every time. And it made me very angry to see my people treated in such a horrific manner. Then I come here and I become disappointed because I was all ready to be angry, and now I hear two councilmen already saying pretty much what I wanted to say. So after 55 years of being an activist, first time I'm disappointed, but in a good way, because I want to thank you guys for doing this. I was surprised that this was happening. I've always heard that Santa Monica was a very progressive city. I'm realizing how progressive because I have to be honest, I'm surprised, and in a very positive way. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Catherine? Welcome.
Hello, my name is Catherine Guerrero, and I am a water protector, and I have been fortunate to have been to Standing Rock on 2 occasions, but I'm standing here as an educator. I was fortunate, I teach U.S. history and government, and so I always tell my girls that they have the power in their voice, and today I'm standing here for them because I'm using my voice to extend theirs. When the people speak, we hope it's so that our voices are heard. And unfortunately, Wells Fargo does not represent the voices of the people. It represents a corporation, it represents money, and unfortunately, it's representing a black snake that's going to go through most of this country. It's going to pollute this country, and by investing in a corporation like Wells Fargo is not listening to the people. That corporation listens to a small majority of the people who are making those profits for that bank. So again, like my colleagues here, I am grateful to hear that you are willing to listen on this, that you are progressive enough to consider this movement or this motion and to lead the way that, you speak for the people. that you speak in the mind of, or in our intention of what we're hoping for. And so I hope you do make that decision based on hearing our voices and hearing our voices representing other voices and representing the voices of the people at Standing Rock who are still there, standing on those front lines, using their bodies, using prayer. We're fortunate to be in this nice room. I know it's late, but this is a much better environment than what those people are currently undergoing. And so I thank you for this time, and I thank you for this opportunity for us to use our voice and for you to listen. So thank you.
Thank you. Nick?
Good evening. Thank you for staying up with us. My name is Nick Yanez, and I'm with Bumpa Los Angeles, and we're a social justice group, and we deal with humanitarian issues. Anybody who's in need in this country, because we consider everybody the family of this nation, deserves to be spoken for. We had opportunity to go to Standing Rock, and we went there with every great intention to help out the people that were, we saw the coverage on the internet that wasn't getting any coverage in the media at that time. We went there to help them. But I can't explain to you how egregious the offense was on a humanitarian on a humanitarian level. I have never witnessed this kind of carnage, you know, as that word has been thrown around politically. The carnage on these people that belong to our country, that we belong to their country, and they were fighting with prayer. And you have really you only to be there to witness that kind of war on our land, and to have and to be humbled by the kind of passion that they have for all of us. And this is not a need just for this group of people, but these are the only group of people who are standing up for the need of America. So I ask you that are in a very poignant time, committees and councils like you that have the opportunity to take a stand and be on the right side of history as this passes us through the ebb and flow of oppression between peoples who cannot fight the people who own the land. I beg of you to stand up for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. And you're Kaya Foster?
Yes.
Hold on one second. I'll call some more names. Philip Downey. It's something Yellow Horse. Shiloh Yellow Horse? Is that Shigo? Dickie Webster and Bruce Campbell. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Good morning. My name is Kaya Foster, and I've had the distinct privilege of living in Santa Monica since I was 8 years old. I also work here in the city with our young adults at the high school and the college. I'm so proud to be from Santa Monica because Santa Monica is deeply committed to pushing the limits of our imaginations, getting us to have a different perception of what a city can and should be. We are driven by our vision, and we understand that we exist not only for our constituents, but as a national and international leader, setting an example for other cities to follow. I teach high school and college students here in the city about sustainability, something I have the opportunity to do because of the vision of the city of Santa Monica, and I want to say thank you for that. I teach them about things like environmental degradation and resource conservation, but also about economics and social justice, because these are very important parts of what true sustainability is. And when any of these pillars is missing, we have to ask ourselves if we're truly sustainable individuals or a truly sustainable city. I therefore urge the City Council to begin the process of investigating the city's financial relationship with Wells Fargo and other such financial institutions. Our economics must not conflict with the values we hold so near and dear. The cities of Seattle and Davis have already begun this process, and though we're used to being number one, I think number 3 will suffice. Especially in these challenging times, we must put our money where our mouth is. Thank you to the council persons who have brought this motion to the council.
Thank you. Philip Downing.
Mr. Chairman, these next two speakers are going to give up their time to honor you and the council with the song. And the song is about encouragement, and we encourage you to do the right thing.
So that would be Mr. Downey and Mr. Yellowhorse, is that right?
That's correct.
All right. you.
Thank you.
Well, that's going to be a tough
That was worth waiting
to follow. Yes. Dickie Webster?
I was with them.
Oh, okay. Well, you did a great job. Thank you. All right, then, Bruce Campbell, you get to top that.
Thank you, Mayor Winter. So back when NASA was allowed to study climate, remember those days? James Hansen of NASA said that it would be game over if much of the tar sands from Alberta, North Dakota are burned, such as would occur if the Keystone XL and/or the Dakota Access Pipeline are completed to feed refineries in Texas and in Illinois. I strongly urge the City of Santa Monica to move readily to divest itself from shady Wells Fargo due to its funding of the Dakota Access Pipeline and because of the widespread fraud related to accounts. And then please consider other divestments related to DAPL. Thanks so much.
Thank you. And then we'll now hear from Flavia Khan and then Saul Perez.
Could he have his 1 minute? Just 1 minute.
Who is he?
Well, it would be Dickie Webster, but we.
Yeah, we kind of switched it up. Just 1 minute.
60 seconds?
All right, 60 seconds.
Thank you, council members. My name is Philip Downey, and last week I had the opportunity to spend some time with one of the elders who, his name was Abeleza, and he's from Sisseton Wapiton, and his family carries a lot of traditional oral traditions, Woho Kunke, and he shared the story of how that confluence, the Cannonball River, was named, and for Native peoples, the boulders that would fall through the rivers, and they would meet up at that right at where Cannonball was, and the force of the waves would turn them to perfectly round stones. And I don't know if you've ever been around any really beautiful spiritual magic, but that's a part of our tradition that is alive in us. And people from all over the United States, medicine people, families, they would go for these rocks. And one of the first things that the DAPL people did was to dig a hole going in the other direction, and now that river no longer makes those stones.
All right, thank you for sharing. And Flavia Khan.
Yeah, my name is actually Flavia Khan, but that's okay.
I'm sorry for mangling it.
That's fine. I'm a long-time resident of Santa Monica, even though it doesn't really sound like it. But I just wanted to start off by saying that something small but probably quite important, which is that we're all standing and mostly sitting on Tongva land right now. Just something to think about. I also wanted to thank Council Members Vasquez and O'Day for bringing this forward. It's really a happy thing. Santa Monica has long been a leader in sustainability, but to be a true leader in this field, we need to embrace all aspects of sustainability, and that does include investment. It seems Santa Monica has an opportunity, like Seattle and Davis before us, to lead in sustainable investments by removing financial attachments to Wells Fargo and thereby the Dakota Access Pipeline, a dangerous and immoral pipeline. Divesting from banks involved with the pipeline doesn't only show a strong commitment to protecting the environment, but it also stands as an important and necessary and overdue statement in support of the fundamental rights of Indigenous people. I really hope this divestment is a first step of a bigger movement to divest from all 17 banks involved in the Dakota Access Pipeline. In conclusion to this brief thing, I think the City of Santa Monica should conduct business with banks whose values align with our own and who fundamentally prioritize people and planet over profit every time. Unfortunately, I only found out about this motion recently. I didn't have much time to mobilize support, but I did get in touch with an old high school friend of mine who I organized Bike to School days with. I don't know if you guys know about that. I was going to say 36 hours, but it's actually moving on to 38 hours that we found out about this. We managed to collect upwards of 400 signatures on a petition, which I'm not quite sure how to send to you, but I will. Just to show you that there's widespread support for this motion in the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Saul Perez.
Thank you, council members, for allowing me to speak on such a vital issue. I am here to support the Standing Rock Sioux Reservation and, most importantly, to ask the City of Santa Monica to divest from any and all funds supporting the Dakota Access Pipeline. Divest from environmental racism that for some reason was not okay for the people of Bismarck and population, who is largely white, but it was okay to build near the Standing Rock Sioux Reservation. Divest from setting a dangerous precedent of polluting not only the clean water of the Sioux people, but other hardworking citizens who depend on the vital sustenance that the river provides. Divest from the continuing oppression of these great indigenous nations who have historically faced continuing military aggressions, encroaching land grabs, destruction of sacred spiritual sites, as well as disregarding historical treaties and disregarding the sovereignty of these indigenous nations. Divest, divest, divest. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I suppose I should have said this. Most everybody here is newcomers to these chambers, but our council rules don't allow for applause. So if you hear something or see something you really like, we like do the jazz hands. See, we got some demonstrators out there. So thank you. That should conclude the public input. And so, council members, the matters before us. Councilmember McEwen.
Why do we who cherish human values continue to place our assets in corporate banks? It's going to be very easy for me to vote in favor of this tonight, not only because of Standing Rock. I have been personally sued by Wells Fargo Bank for trying to protect the people of Santa Monica. About 17 years ago, we passed a law that would have limited the usurious ATM fees that Wells Fargo was charging. And they shut down their ATMs in Santa Monica to people who weren't their customers. That's how they treated Santa Monica. Then they went ahead and sued the city and sued me personally until we rescinded the law. So I have no love for Wells Fargo. And I'd also urge people to realize that while I think the city of Santa Monica is going to do the right thing tonight, if you're a Santa Monican, you can do the right thing too. If you have your money in a corporate bank, think about the options, okay? A few years ago, during the bank collapse, when people were quite angry with the corporate banks, they would come to me and say, well, can we get our money into a credit union? And at the time, there was a credit union here in Santa Monica that was open to Santa Monica City employees. And with a bit of encouragement, they have now become open to residents. They have an office at 6th and Santa Monica. If you'd like to get your money out of a corporate bank, you have that opportunity in Santa Monica. And if you'd like Santa Monica to get its money out of at least one corporate bank, I think you have that opportunity tonight, but I'll leave the motion to those who brought it to us.
Councilmember Vasquez.
First of all, I want to thank you, Mayor. I know you broke some rules here today by having these folks do the drum roll, and for many of the folks that I know overextended their time at the mics. When I had this conversation with Councilmember O'Day, our thinking was obviously to divest our interests with Wells Fargo, and I know we did get an email and a staff report, or I should say, it was more of, I guess it was really an email from our CFO, Gigi, that I guess she's going to be coming back with some more information if we decide to move in this direction, because I know we have some obligations that we need to consider as we move forward, and that's all coming back to us, I believe, on the 28th. But I guess I would like to move it and to see what our options are to do as much as we can and as an expedient way. And I know some of these things might take a little bit of time because we probably have to RFP certain things to look at what our other options are, where we put our investments and our practices, our financial practices with other comparable banks in this city.
Councilmember O'Day.
Sure, I think I can build on this motion for tonight, and I just want to start out by saying I was really tired when this started, but man, I feel energetic and connected now. Thank you all. Thank you for your testimony. Wells Fargo is not the only bank that is funding Dakota Access Pipeline. Notably, Citibank and TD Securities, the Bank of Tokyo, Mitsubishi, and Mizuho Bank are the biggest funders. And that, I think, helps Councilmember McEwen underscore your point that every individual has an opportunity to make an impact on this. But Wells Fargo is the biggest bank on this list that the city has a relationship with, and has a pretty big relationship. In fact, over $1 billion in annual transactions for general services banking, and as a third-party trustee for our investment. And so I have a motion that's based on some of the input that we received from the staff, and maybe our city manager can help to modify it as needed. To begin with, we'd like to move to break the relationship between the City of Santa Monica and Wells Fargo Bank. We want to, the motion would require that we move to issue a new RFP for general banking services, that we immediately terminate the broker-dealer relationship for investment transactions that the city has with Wells Fargo. And on our February 28th meeting, our very next meeting, that we review our investment policy to consider financial services being included as part of our investment policy. We would also at that meeting review the options to sell the Wells Fargo bonds that are held by the city today, and discuss that at the meeting. And lastly, that the staff would prepare a press release to communicate this to the public to let other people know how they can join this movement.
All right, moved by Councilmember O'Day, seconded by Councilmember Vasquez. The city manager would like to speak to this.
Yeah, I think that staff wouldn't have any objection to the practicality of this motion, which is our concern, is simply to make sure that we can do this in an orderly way, as the other two cities are doing it in an orderly way. Just clarification, immediately doesn't mean tomorrow morning on the broker relationship, but as soon as is practical. And similarly, the issuing of a RFP is scheduled for spring of next year. We may be able to move that forward.
All right. Any other discussion?
And I just want to also say that obviously there's a number of presumably legal documents that have to be looked at, and so it has to be done both orderly, but appropriately, so as not to risk losses of city funds. So, with that in mind, and we obviously have to review any number of transactions that we have with Wells Fargo.
Understood. I think our next meeting offers us the opportunity to begin to consider some of those plans in more depth.
All right, so we can do this by a voice vote. Can we? It says voice vote on my cheat sheet, but I'm thinking maybe this allows a whole lot of money and we probably should vote on it. Yeah. All right. Let's do a roll call.
Oh, Pam's going. Okay. Councilmember O'Day?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Davis?
Yes.
Councilmember Vasquez?
Yes.
Councilmember Kuhn?
Yes.
And Mayor Winter?
Yes, so that carries 5-0, fortunately. So we'll move on to the next item. Oh, that's a lot of jazz hands. Thank you all for staying up late tonight. We appreciate your perseverance. And hopefully you learned something from all the other stuff we talked about.
Is Councilmember Hemmerich coming back?
Yes.
And if somebody could let Councilmember Himmelrich
Yes.
know that she is now welcome back.
There she is. And so can we call 13D, please?
Sure.
This one should be easier.
13D is request of Councilmember Vasquez that the council authorize the use of council travel funds for attendance at the Friendship City signing celebration March 8th through the 15th, 2017 in Kizugawa, Japan, for the purpose of continuing our longstanding cultural ties with Santa Monica's inaugural Friendship City, and you have no request to speak.
All right, well, I think you need to speak to this, Councilmember Vasquez.
Yes, it was actually I was drafted by our mayor because Jeff Jarrell, who runs our sister cities, last year when I was the mayor, we signed this document, and actually Councilmember McEwen was here to make them a sister city, or actually a friendship city, and now they want to reciprocate and have us do the same ceremonial in Japan. And when I found out that our mayor wasn't available because of other financial and I'm assuming employment obligations.
Actually, it also happens to be my 60th.
Oh, that's
birthday.
right. There's an anniversary tied to it too.
His birthday is 60th.
Oh.
He's going to be old.
No, he's a youngster. I offered to go, so that's why I agendized this.
Yeah, and I'll just say I thought it was appropriate since the people over there already had a relationship with Councilmember Vasquez that they'd like to see a familiar face. So I'll make a motion that we authorize the use of the funds for this travel.
I'd like to just offer Councilmember Vasquez some unsolicited advice based on my visit to Japan a couple of years ago as mayor. Beware of special events you don't understand, and make sure you know what's on the menu. Been there, done that.
All right, so we are spending money, so we need a roll call vote, please.
That is correct. Councilmember Kuhn?
Yes.
Councilmember Vasquez?
Yes.
Councilmember Himmelrich?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Davis?
Yes.
Councilmember O'Day?
Yes.
And Mayor Winter?
Yes, so that passes unanimously of the 6 of us still standing. And we'll move on to item 13E.
Okay, so this is a long one. Request of council members Hemmerich, McCune, and McCune that the City Council direct staff to prepare an ordinance prohibiting employers, landlords, housing agencies, and other parties involved in seeking or providing jobs, housing, or other benefits, goods, or services from gathering information on religious affiliation of tenants, clients, customers, or other participants, and further prohibiting the sharing of such information that may already have been gathered or have become inadvertently available, and further that council authorize staff to work with other entities and organizations on how best to reassure members of our community who feel vulnerable on immigration and religious practice issues, returning to council with a resolution affirming city values on diversity and reasserting Chief Brooks' recent statement that the Santa Monica Police Department does not enforce immigration laws. And I'm sorry, before you go, you have 17 requests to speak on this.
All right. So one of you should jump in on this.
Well, so I think this was inspired by the legislature's bills that covered this, although frankly, I did a short version of it, and then Councilmember McEwen made it so much more broad and so much better. So with that beginning, I'm going to let you amplify the nuances of this.
Well, we all know the absolute insanity that's going on in this country and how completely it contravenes the values that we here in Santa Monica have long held. And many of us have participated in protesting and resisting. And my wife, who's here tonight, went down to LAX one night to protest against what was going on with people from certain countries being told they couldn't come into America, despite having, up until that moment, completely valid visas. And so what we have happening here is overt discrimination against people based on religion. We also have people being discriminated against on immigration status, and we have a great deal of fear in the community. And I hope tonight that we could address some of that. A couple of days ago on KNX Radio, I heard George Takei talking about what had happened to him when he was a kid. And he was a Japanese kid in America during World War II who got sent to that internment camp. And he said that they eventually were sent to the internment camp after having their bank account seized, after being told that they had a curfew and couldn't go out after 7 o'clock at night because they were Japanese. But it all began with a registry. Japanese people were required to register. So the thrust of this motion tonight, which became quite wordy because I did want it to be broad, is to prohibit the accumulation of information on people's religious adherence that could be used against them, and to let the word go forth in our community that we will do everything in our power to protect the immigrants among us. And, you know, before the election, I went and spoke at Santa Monica College to a group of students who were brave enough to stand up in advance of the election and say how important the election was to them, because they weren't citizens, and they were fearful of what could happen if, God forbid, Donald Trump got elected. God forbid, he did. And those students are at risk, and many other students in our community have parents or relatives who may be at risk. I want everybody in Santa Monica to know that the Santa Monica Police Department does not enforce immigration law. I want everybody in Santa Monica to know we have your back. I want everybody in Santa Monica to know that we are not collecting databases on who was born where or who adheres to what religion. And that's the purpose of this item on tonight's agenda.
All right, with that, we will open up the public comment. We'll start with Jonathan Foster, followed by Janet McKeithen, Sean Landris, and Marco Marin. Oh, sorry, I got to turn your mic. My apologies.
I've got the hardest job here. A speaker tonight spoke of 57 people died in an earthquake and sent the message that we need to protect the community. But when it comes to illegal aliens killing police officers and I speak up about it, I get denigrated. That we cannot have that here. The 600 alien gangs, violent criminals have to be turned over to Immigration Customs Enforcement. That's the law. If you wouldn't go into an unsecured building, let's not do this to the police. Without turning illegal persons over to Immigration Customs Enforcement when encountered by police, the police keep having a more dangerous job. And I'm not for that. So why would you do that to the community, knowing the many types of crime related to illegal aliens? Many are coming illegally specifically to have a kid to make themselves stay here, and parents may feel emboldened to be more vicious towards the police, knowing that the elected people are whoring themselves out on these issues to get reelected. Who in here, if I go to your home and you find me in your home, who isn't calling the police to have me removed? Because I'm going to sleep at your house.
Hi. On a different tactic. I'm the minister at the church in Ocean Park, and I strongly support this resolution, and I thank you for putting it on the agenda. I'm also the president of the Santa Monica Area Interfaith Council, and many of our members also support this resolution wholeheartedly. All members of the Interfaith Council believe that all people are sacred and should be protected from harm, especially harm that comes from irrational and racist fear. We all know that under the current administration, the most vulnerable among us are more and more danger with each passing day. The church in Ocean Park is a multi-religious congregation, meaning that a variety of faith traditions are represented and none are held in higher esteem than any other. In last Sunday's service, a Muslim woman said that her 7-year-old daughter was scared. The day after the election, she came home and said, "Mommy, are we terrorists?" Similarly, you know about the recent ICE raids nearby, and each of these deportations represent a family. Many of them, the breadwinners taken away, leaving the family devastated financially and emotionally. My sincere hope is that this is a great first step, that you'll take this wonderful first step tonight, but that it won't be the end, that you will become even bolder, and that in addition to saying that you won't give information, that you will also make a commitment that as a community we will protect the people that are in our city from being deported, that we will put ourselves on the line in the way of people trying to take people from their homes. We will put our bodies in the way in the event that they are at risk of being forcibly removed from their houses, and we won't let that happen to the people in our town. That is my hope.
Thank you.
Good morning, Sean Landris again. And I've been working on these issues both as a Los Angeles County Commissioner and as a Santa Monica Social Services Commissioner, but I'm here as an individual to express my strong support for this timely and urgent request. My grandparents, my mother, and my wife are immigrants. My mother is a survivor, and my grandfather worked for the UN in refugee resettlement after World War II. Some of my relatives received visas probably only because the U.S. government didn't know they were Jewish. I'm proud that both CLUE Santa Monica and the board of the Santa Monica Bay Area Human Relations Council, on which I serve, have taken strong positions on immigrant protection. And I want to thank our city manager, Rick Cole, for meeting immediately with local Muslim community leadership in November and for accepting invitations to speak to 2 different Muslim community gatherings in Santa Monica in December and January. This is a very strong list, but I would like to ask that it be expanded to include the 3 additional specific components. First, given the request's appropriate sensitivity to religious practice issues, we must also take local action to protect the rights of LGBTQ people and ensure that religious freedom never include a license to discriminate. Second, as a prominent tourist and visitor destination, the city should work with the Chamber, the Pier, Downtown Santa Monica, and the Travel and Tourism Board, maybe also Good Inc., to find ways to share and reinforce our inclusive values with all who come here. And third, as Councilmember Himmelrich indicated, I would ask that the city's legislative agenda formally be expanded to include strong support for SB 54, the California Values Act, and SB 31, the California Religious Freedom Act, as well as any other measures that will backstop our efforts, protect our people, protect our public servants, and stand us in solidarity with all immigrants and refugees and everyone who needs us to be with them. And if the Commission, the Social Services Commission, can be of any assistance, please don't hesitate to call on us. Thank you.
Thank you. Marco, hold on 1 second. I'll call a few more names. Paulina, I'm going to butcher this, I can tell. Zahaglin, Mario Sagun. Okay, well, thank you for the bailout on that. Paulina Sagun, Mario Alacon, and Liliana Palma. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council members. Familiar faces right here. I just waited from since yesterday to be here in the microphone. I really admire the commitment you have for your work. I do really. I'm just going to officially start this speech by I remember one time when I visited my father, who was working in Cutler, California, as a farmer in the Central Valley, and with his friends. When I visited him, and I was just looking how do you call this, vulnerable conditions that he was living right there, he looked at me and say, have no pity on us. We are richer than you. And then I asked, how come? Because we have our moral and dignity that nobody can take from us. Now I'm telling you, my father passed away 11 years ago. I still remember this right inside my heart. And we are here to represent Familias Latinas Unidas. Please raise your hands. Familias Latinas Unidas is in the heart of the Virginia Park. Virginia Park is in the heart of Pico neighborhood. Pico neighborhood is the heart of the Latino people here in Santa Monica, the one some people call the vulnerable people. I'm asking you, in behalf of all these hardworking people, have no pity on us, but make sure that you defend and protect our moral and dignity. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Evening or good morning.
Good morning, City Council, and thank you for putting this on the agenda. It is not a coincidence that we had our brothers and sisters from this nation of this great country, the U.S. The Mexicano people, we are indigenous to this country. We are related to the Tongva. We are the same linguistic tree of the Uto-Aztecan. I speak to you today as someone that was born here, someone that has very deep roots. My father escaped the Bracero program because it was inhumane labor practices. He ended up in Santa Monica that had a large population of the people of Jalisco from the 1800s, and I believe Councilman Vasquez is from that same area. So as a child, I did witness raids, the ones with the green uniforms coming into our house. I also witnessed the hard work of my family to make sure that we had a roof over our heads and that we were honest people contributing. So this ordinance that you have put on the agenda, I urge you to adopt it. I have been to the State of the City address that happened a week ago or so. I've listened to the superintendent. I've heard everyone express the love of the city. I've heard everyone express that we need to protect the people of the city, to build on the history of the people of the city, to protect the next generations. If we don't take care of the next generations by passing this ordinance, we will see fear in our children. We will have trauma, and we'll have a lot of problems with our young people growing up, and that will affect us as elders. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mayor and Council members. My name is Mario Alarcon. I'm resident of Santa Monica City. I'm here first to thank you for your consideration of doing an ordinance. Because we feel attacked under the new administration, we're asking you for your support. We contribute, we are involved in our community just like everybody else. We feel uncomfortable with the agencies sharing personal information with federal government given the new administration. So thank you very much for your effort in creating an ordinance that will help ease our concern. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before you speak, Ms. Garcia, right? Pardon? Oh, Palma, I'm sorry, wrong card. Ms. Palma, before you start, I'm going to call off a few more names. Gloria Garcia, Irma Carranza, Sofia Ramirez, and Carmen Cruz.
Good
Welcome,
morning.
Ms. Palma.
My name is Liliana Palma. I'm the liaison for Familias Latinas Unidas. I wanted to make an invitation for one or more of you to come to our meetings. I know we're a small group here, but they represent the Pico neighborhood community and people who attend the park. And it can all be word of mouth, but I think this ordinance would really help secure and bring back some peace to the community that has not been since this new administration came in. Just want to clarify also that these are hardworking people who work for the community, a lot of hours unpaid, and they do it for leadership, education, and culture, and not all undocumented immigrants are criminals, just to clarify. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Garcia.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, City Council members. My name is Gloria Garcia, and I'm resident of Santa Monica. I'm here to support this item. Our community is really concerned with the administration and the anti-immigration policies. So it is important that cities protect all the residents regardless their immigration status. My son is currently fighting in Afghanistan, and like him, many other young immigrants or Latinos. And he's so willing to give in his life and fighting for freedom, and not just for some, but for all. Thank you for considering.
Thank you. Ms. Carranza.
Good evening, council members. My name is Irma Carranza. I'm a resident of the Pico neighborhood. I wanted to thank both of the council members for bringing this for discussion. I do have some input regarding the actual language. Thank you, Councilmember Kevin McEwen, for broadening the language. Sounds like you did. But where it says from gathering information on the religious affiliation of tenants, I feel like it kind of just centers on that, even though there's some more language at the bottom.
but I feel like we need to kind of add something in addition to after religious. So whether it's immigration, some status, or something, ethnicity, something to protect and give it a wider net for the broader community. That's my take on that. And thank you for actually having the discussion, because the last couple of parent meetings that we've had, while we had full agendas, we actually put the agenda to the side because everybody wanted to talk about what's going on with immigration. And so it's a big concern in our community. And we're thankful for Chief Seabrooks, who early on after the election came to the community and gave a statement to, support the community, saying that Santa Monica police officers will not be INS officers. So we're very thankful. We hope to see you as well in the community. I know that that's another ask of our community, to get reassurance from our leadership. So that includes from seeing your face in our community, coming out and engaging and just giving a reassuring message that people are safe here. I trust you guys, and I know that you guys will do the right thing, but I think our residents, our community needs to see your face and needs to hear it firsthand from you guys. So great here, and let's take it out to the community as well. So thank you for having this discussion.
Welcome.
Good morning, Mayor and City Council. My name is Sofia Ramirez. I'm here as a resident and community member of the Pico neighborhood. I would like to each of you to support this ordinance to protect all families and their kids, to keep them safe and together. This ordinance will help ease many undocumented families from the worrying and impacting their daily life. We trust that in each of you will support this ordinance. Thank you. We need your help.
Carmen? You can hold on 1 second. I'll call a few more names. Looks like Macrina Garcia, Elvira Ruiz, and Liz Cruz, and Apolinar Garcia. Ms. Cruz, the floor is yours.
I should start to say good morning because it's morning. And I have to say good morning, Mayor, and good morning, City Council. My name is Carmen Cruz. I'm a member of this community. And I'm very concerned about the practice of our new federal government against our families. As a member of this community, I am asking you to help us by passing the ordinance that will protect the personal information of our families that are vulnerable and they are concerning about the migration issues in our country. I deeply thank you for your support, and I want you to keep that promise. So make it real. Our family are very concerned. Our children are our future. So we have to think about them. So we have to put on their shoes. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mayor and
Good
council
morning.
members. My name is Macrina Garcia, and I'm a resident of Santa Monica. I am here to support the item in discussion, and I'm here to ask for your vote to pass the item to protect Santa Monica residents' information and to bring peace to the vulnerable residents. Thank you. Good.
Thank you.
Hi, good morning, City Council. I'm a resident of Santa Monica, and I'm very proud of being here too. And I'm here tonight because I really support this to pass this ordinance, because I talk a lot with a community, and it's a lot of worry in the community. You know, a lot of families, they're worried about keeping their information confidential, and I think with all your help, we can make this possible to bring a little peace to their families and their little kids. They're our future, and I think all together we can be a good we have the power all together. So I think we can make a big change. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mayor and City Council. My name is Liz Cruz. I'm a native and current resident of Santa Monica. I'm here to support your directive to staff to write an ordinance safeguarding all families' personal information. My hope is that each of you will support it as it can and will have severe consequences, as you have heard in earlier statements, for many undocumented families that live in Santa Monica. Many are contributing members, civically involved in the well-being of our city and families. The City of Santa Monica recently won the Culture of Health Prize. Passing this ordinance would exemplify why we won this prize, because we care for all families and their well-being regardless of their immigration status. Thank you for having this on your agenda.
Good morning, Mayor, and good morning, the City Member Council. My name is Apolinar Garcia. I am a resident of Santa Monica. I'm here to support this item. How I read, it seems like it seems to be focused in the religion information, but I would like this to be for not just for the religion, for all of them. And I'm sure I've been living here for 41 years, and I know how is the Santa Monica, and I know that you guys want to help us to protect the people, and I have faith in that. Thank you all.
Thank you, Council. That was all the timely chits we received. We do have 2 late chits. What's the Council's inclination?
Move to hear for 1 minute apiece.
All right, we will hear from 1 minute from Lydia Ponce and 1 minute from Chris Gutierrez. Welcome back.
Thank you. Good morning. If the treaties were honored, we wouldn't be here this late, because we would be a sovereign people, all of us, and we wouldn't recognize these borders. And we would have been taught as Latino or Hispanic people to always be indigenous and to not hate ourselves and each other or other people. The fact that we wouldn't recognize the borders because we would be able to travel freely from Canada to United States and back to Mexico to and from freely. And as one of my relatives that just left, George Funmaker, says, you know, when the birds show a green card at the border, that's when we'll start doing that. And the people here, the good people here, shouldn't be living in fear or living in shadows. And I'm happy that they're here this late, and I'm proud to be with them at this late hour. Thank you.
So I was born in Santa Monica, as were many of all my family, my immediate family, my father in Sacramento, but not my aunts and uncles. We had the good fortune of giving here to Santa Monica, and now the fortune is mine to give back. So beyond this ordinance, I would hope that the City Council puts a call out to people like me who are very well connected to grassroots and other networks, for us to learn on a deeper level what we need to do to really look out. I think it's Huckleberry that put in its window, its business window, a beautiful sign confirming that they are tolerant and loving. And I would suggest that we consider how to embrace such signs in all of our locales. I have one in my apartment window. But truly, I'm happy to see our Latino families here. We don't often see them here at the council in such numbers, and our indigenous families. So please move this forward. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the public hearing, and Councilmember McEwen, would you like to kick it off?
Well, as much as I want to thank our new president for making Saturday Night Live great again, I realize it's not very funny in the Pico neighborhood. And so I think I want to take the suggestion from Ms. Carenza and add to this not just prohibiting the gathering of information on religious affiliation, but also gathering immigration on immigration status. And I had started with religious affiliation because obviously that's been part of the international issue. And religious affiliation is such personal information. It really shouldn't be getting gathered. You know, immigration status does get gathered, but this does prohibit the sharing of information that's already been gathered. So I'd be willing to add that in. I didn't start out meaning for this to be so specific and so wordy because it wasn't originally going to be an ordinance. It was going to be an advisory. But then last week, it's a week ago now because they did it on Wednesday, the LA City Council passed an ordinance based on this. So I felt I had to go back and retool this to be an ordinance. And I didn't want it to be so vague that it wasn't meaningful to the communities I'm trying to reach out to and let know that we support you. I mean, I was urged to add other things besides religion, and now I have added immigration status. But for instance, place of birth is already gathered in voter registration processes in California. So I don't know that we can prohibit that information. I was asked to put in ethnicity. Well, ethnicity is gathered by the U.S. Census. But the gathering and sharing at this particular point in history of religious affiliation and immigration status have taken on a whole new meaning and a new level of fear-inducing meaning in our community. So I think it's very important that we do this. Mr. Landris talked about LGBTQ. Well, our policies on gender identification and LGBTQ discrimination in Santa Monica are well established and well articulated. And I want to keep this specific to the situation that we have right now. So I'm going to ask that the council, I lost my screen, but I must have it here in writing somewhere, that the council directs staff to prepare an ordinance prohibiting employers, landlords, housing agencies, and other parties involved in seeking or providing jobs, housing, or any other benefits, goods, or services from gathering information on the religious affiliation or immigration status of tenants, clients, customers, or other participants, and further prohibiting the sharing of such information that may already have been gathered or become inadvertently available, and further that we authorize staff to work with other entities and organizations on how best to reassure members of our community who are feeling vulnerable on immigration and religious practice issues of returning to council with a resolution affirming our city values on diversity and reasserting Chief Seabrook's recent statement that the Santa Monica Police Department does not enforce immigration laws.
All right, moved by Councilmember McHugh and seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Davis. Councilmember Hemmerich.
Yeah, so I'd like to take another run at the idea that we add to this sexual orientation. I think that it's an important issue. I think that it is as susceptible to registration as either of the other two. And I'm concerned that there is enough strong feeling and bias about sexual orientation, and it's such a recently recognized way of living that, again, I'm worried about a backlash, and I think that that should be something that's protected as well. So I hope that that's friendly.
As the maker of the motion, may I comment?
Certainly.
I take it then that what you'd be suggesting would be that where it now says gathering information on the religious affiliation or immigration status of tenants, etc., it would be gathering information on the religious affiliation, immigration status, or sexual orientation of?
Yes, and that's exactly what I wrote in.
Identity.
Oh, right.
Orientation
I'm sorry,
and
yes.
identity.
Thank you.
Okay, we're writing by committee, but sometimes that's a good thing. So does the clerk have those changes in the motion, including sexual identification and identity? Orientation and identity.
Orientation and identity.
That is going to be friendly to the maker, and you were the seconder, I believe. So
No, Mayor Pro
Tem
Oh,
Davis
well, you contributed words to it, so you must be friendly too. Okay, so that's the amended motion.
All right. Councilmember Vasquez.
Actually, I was going to speak to after we passed the motion.
All right. Mayor Pro Tem Davis, did you have anything to add?
Just very briefly, you know, these are unsettling at best times, and I just wanted to say that this is part of, but not the entirety of, the city council. I'm anticipating this will pass unanimously. You know, supporting the people in our community who have been most affected by the changes that have been taking place over the last few weeks. And that this is not the end all, but the beginning of, you know, our commitment to protect the people in our community from external forces that we don't have a lot of immediate control over. But I'm hoping that people will work with us to make sure that we all protect each other in the coming uncertain and unstable days ahead. So thank you.
And, oh, Mr. Lawrence, you can push a button instead of raising our finger.
Yeah, I'm just going to be brief. Certainly, as the department that would be charged with writing the ordinance, we'll write it as aggressive and creative an ordinance as we can. And I'm not familiar with whatever the city of Los Angeles did, but we'll certainly look at that. But I do want to, if I remember, some 6 or 7 hours ago, we started a discussion with the kind of age we live in and the kind of communication that people engage in, and the kind of, and I will now say, data that people have gathered, and the kind of user agreements that people have agreed to, which allows all kinds of people to gather all kinds of information and to share all kinds of information about people. So I just throw that out as something that has to be looked at. But we'll write as I said, as creative and as aggressive, and ultimately as legal an ordinance as we can.
I think you're saying we can't control Google or Facebook, is what you're saying.
I certainly am saying that.
Be careful what you put on Google or Facebook.
And before we vote on this, I just want to throw in that in terms of the latter part of the motion about figuring out how to work with impacted communities and other organizations, that I know I've already had some conversations with the city manager, and city staff has been talking to other organizations, and we do intend to continue our efforts to reach out to people and reassure them that we're looking out for their best interests, and that everybody in our community is a valued member of that community. So that work is already afoot, but it certainly does not hurt to have it reaffirmed this evening by this motion. So with that said, I think that we can do this all by a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? So that carries unanimously with the 6 of us still here. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. And we will move on to item 13F.
13F.
Tony wants to say something. Sorry.
Just before we leave this, because it was mentioned by one of the speakers that they would like to invite the members, and I've gone to a couple of their meetings, the Friday night meetings over at Virginia Park. So I'm hoping that we can follow through with that, and because I know a lot of the community would be assured if we express these feelings and the support that they should feel safe in our community.
Thank you for that thought. And now we'll call item 13F.
Item 13F is a recommendation to accept Ann Dobson's resignation from the Social Services Commission and authorize the city clerk to publish the vacancy, and you have no request to speak.
Okay, so moved by Mayor Pro Tem Davis, seconded by Mayor Winter to accept with regrets. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed or abstentions? That motion carries 6-0. And now we turn to item 14.
Item 14 is public input. Public comment is permitted only on items not on the agenda that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city. State law prohibits the city council from taking any action on items not listed on the agenda, including issues raised under this agenda item, and you have 7 requests to speak, and I'll bring them to you.
I was going to say, I don't have 7 requests to speak.
I don't think we have 7 people in the room, but we'll see.
All right. First speaker would be Harvey Eder for 1 minute, followed by Denise Barton and Jonathan Foster. Welcome back, Mr. Eder.
Hello, I'm Harvey Eder, speaking for 1 minute with the Public Solar Power Coalition. I told you I'd been around solar and solar issues for a long time. I was the first registered environmental study student in the UC system in 1970, etc. First local government person in solar, 77, 78, Santa Cruz County solar education specialist. The price of solar is coming down so quickly that they're saying it's going to be like 2-3 cents a kilowatt hour. They used to say nuclear would be too cheap to monitor. Well, that's the situation with solar. Solar equity and is the possibility here. The city has got 40% low income under 20,000, 40% over 100,000, and 20% in between. There's automation coming out now versus taking away more jobs and regulation, and solar equity is something that needs to be done. And then there's tax credits that'll pay for 30 through 60% of
Denise
it.
Barton.
Trump doesn't take them away.
Jonathan Foster, Art Casillas, George Funmaker. Well, Ms. Barton.
Good morning. To continue on about how the Housing Authority is conspiring to cover up the molding and deaths with fiberglass coming out of the walls in the affordable housing units at AO Apartments, let's look at how Barbara Collins discriminated against me as a disabled person regarding relocation funds. In my case, Barbara Collins decided, since I'd already received relocation funds from Wilshire Skyline, Inc., as a result of being Ellis, that I only needed relocation funds once a year. And that was her rationalization for telling me if I wanted relocation funds, I'd have to sue for them. That's why she didn't make AO pay me for any of my relocation costs, as she's done to many others before me, resulting in me having to borrow money to cover the costs of having to move 2 more times. So as a disabled person on a limited income, I can only take her actions as discrimination against me, especially since she knew I'd already spent the relocation funds I received from being Ellis, so my SSI payments wouldn't be affected. Or the only other logical and rational reason for Barbara Collins' actions, if not to discriminate against me as a disabled person, would be in conspiracy with AO Apartments to cover up the molding and dust with fiberglass coming out of the walls conditions in the affordable housing at AO Apartments. Here I also feel the need to mention that Barbara Collins' rationale for allowing Section 8 tenants to live in these conditions at AO Apartments is by saying not everyone is as sensitive as I am. In other words, if other people don't realize they're sick, then conditions that do not meet HUD's criteria standards for affordable housing are okay. And could this be seen as a separate crime, knowingly endangering the health of tenants in affordable housing at AO Apartments, besides Barbara Collins discriminating against me as a disabled person in reference to relocation funds? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Foster, you're up. Well, hold on 1 second. I'll call all the remaining names. Art Casillas, I do not see. George Funmaker, I do not see. Lydia Ponce, I do not see. So Michael Tony will be after Mr. Foster.
Do I get the 3 minutes? She said.
He was supposed to have 2 minutes on the earlier item, so he's going to get 3 right now.
What I was going to say is, if you find me in your home, you know you're going to call the police, and I'm going to go over to your home and sleep tonight. And if I was on the Dakota reservation, I'd be removed, and I'm a Choctaw part, and if I was on the Choctaw reservation, I'd be out of here. This policy is significantly different than raiding people's homes. See, it's to police. So not knowing who could be violent and that person harms an officer later, that's on you and Chief Seabrooks, not me. I'm off the hook now. So, I don't know. Here's my new cutout. I don't know what the time is. I can't even see it, but we'll...
You're the criminal as she is, but what am I saying? You allowed Pamela Carter to remain on the city council after she conspired with Marsha Mitri and Rod Gould to avoid prosecution.
Thank you, Marcia, from one attorney to another. Might show that I'm somewhat lacking in good sense. And I, too, am a lawyer. Marcia said to me, oh, I love having lawyers on the council. All that I know about the legal and justice system, I've learned from you.
I think it was 1987.
Show that I'm somewhat lacking in good sense.
That Marcia is one of the most consequential.
The federal government is actually acknowledging it.
Might show that I'm somewhat lacking in good sense. Well, I would have bought this for myself if I had money. Thank you. Can't help it. I'm a lawyer, so the first thing that crossed my mind was how many laws that was going to break. I would have sworn on a Bible, if I were a Bible person, that I would never do of various laws. We suspended numerous laws for one. Might show that I'm somewhat lacking in good sense. Those of us who are attorneys are elected because we're attorneys, and us being the government. That's the way we have to fight.
To avoid prosecution.
We have to fight ethically. We can't cut those corners. And
Watch, she doesn't hug Denise Anderson Warren, walked right by a black lady just like she left out Martin Luther King's holiday on the 3rd Street Promenade Performers Code for the Jewish street owners, whores.
a unique burden to the city attorney.
Illegal abortions. He was reported, people wrote handwritten letters, they delivered them, they made complaints, lawyers made complaints, everyone looked the other way.
To avoid prosecution.
Yeah, so she forfeited her retirement, but then the collusion that goes on with Kamala Harris, Jackie, John, all these people, Henry, Barbara, Diane, getting out of here with retirements, and they're letting the police department get shot dead. But it's because of this collusion that goes on. In your elected lawyer, you think you're the government. The people are the government, not you.
Thank you, Mr. Tony. You're up.
This has to do with the energy, but I thought since this is about the 20 megawatt power plant, with the basic information came from Aarhus, Denmark, 1984, forward ejection electrons and ion collisions. So what you basically have is particle beam storage rings using supercooled superconducting magnets and voltage sources that the electrostatics keep kind of a trim line on that. You use polycrystalline foils, aluminum carbon foils that are 3.2 micrograms per square centimeter. You collide it onto that H2 plus ions, traveling about 20th the speed of light, 54 million feet per second. 1 gram of H2 plus ions will create 20 megawatts for 1 second. That means 86,000 grams of ions per day, or 172 pounds per day of H2 plus molecules collided like that will create the 20,000 megawatts. Then you have to have the crystalline foils that are also going to go in there. So that's what is it per? So 172 pounds per day, and it's completely pure energy. It would probably get extremely hot, but it is otherwise it's completely non-polluting. You would be hard-pressed to find anything that is that powerful. In say a 50-foot radius, it would be very small, and you've got the solution to the problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tony. All right, council members, now it comes time for us to adjourn in the memory of those we've lost in our community, and sadly we have a substantial number of them this evening. I believe someone has prepared some words in memory of Jack Rosenbaum.
Well, actually, I was going to close with that. Why don't we start with the one that I've handed off to Mayor Pro Tem Davis?
We have a lot, so okay, we'll start with Harold Rosen.
I'd ask that we adjourn tonight in the memory of, Harold Rosen. He was born in 1926. He attended Tulane University in New Orleans and came to Southern California, where he attended Caltech and earned a PhD in engineering. He lived in Santa Monica, but his most notable accomplishments among many was that he actually invented geosynchronous satellites, which made possible modern telecommunications and also modern video satellite transmissions. If you're a DirecTV or Dish TV customer, then you are taking advantage of a technology that he basically developed. He was responsible for the first ever geosynchronous communication satellite, which he called SYNCOM, and he won the Charles Stark Draper Prize, which is the equivalent of the Nobel Prize in Engineering. He shared that with John Pierce, a Bell Labs expert, and in the 1950s they advocated for many low-orbit satellites, and of course that is the backbone of our current communications system. He is survived by his wife, Deborah Castleman, who also happened to be a former satellite engineer at Hughes and Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense. He also leaves 2 sons, Ricky and Robert, and a brother, Benjamin Rosen. I asked specifically to do this adjournment because he did work with folks at DirecTV and in fact frequently came for Bring Your Child to Work Day to encourage the children of DirecTV employees to engage in STEM education and encouraged a number of them to go on to study sciences. So obviously we send our deepest condolences to his family, and he will be missed, but we are grateful for his accomplishments.
And I'll move us on from geosynchronous satellites carrying TV shows to TV shows about space. When we watched the late 70s TV show Battlestar Galactica, we probably didn't know that one of the stars of that original series was born here in Santa Monica. Richard Hatch, the Santa Monica native who played Captain Apollo on Battlestar Galactica, died a week ago. Richard Hatch was born in Santa Monica in 1945, but he found his early success in New York on the off-Broadway stage. He then landed a role in the TV soap opera All My Children, but it was Battlestar Galactica that made him famous and earned him a Golden Globe nomination for Best Actor in a TV Drama Series. Richard Hatch, Captain Apollo, was 71. The Cylons never got him, but time gets us all. He is survived by his brother John and his son Paul, and we send our condolences to that family. And I also sadly want to adjourn in memory of somebody actually who I knew. Jack Rosenbaum was a longtime Ocean Park resident who for the past 32 years served on the board of directors of the Clare Foundation, the Santa Monica-based multi-service agency that since 1970 has helped individuals and families in recovery from alcoholism and drug addiction. Jack was born in Pennsylvania, but came to L.A. with his family in 1935, going to school in the area, graduating from UCLA. He worked in Whole food distribution for over 40 years and was active in the Jewish Big Brother program, Little League, and Cub Scouts. Jack Rosenbaum's first contact with the Clare Foundation came after a drunk driving incident where Jack got a so-called nudge from the judge. Jack got sober himself. He helped many other people get and stay sober. And in 1982, Jack helped to found Nicotine Anonymous, a 12-step program for cigarette addiction. Besides 32 years on the Clare board, Jack continued to work with young people in recovery, which may have helped him stay young so many years. Jack was 36 years sober. He was 85 years old. Jack Rosenbaum is survived by his wife Cookie, his family Marjorie, Deborah, Rick, Pam, and Kathy, and their kids Laurel, Margot, and young Jack. Jack Rosenbaum will be missed by many people, including me.
And I believe, Mr. Lawrence, you had some words to share with us?
Yes, as you recall, at the last meeting, we reported that Ivan Campbell, Deputy City Attorney's father, had recently died. He died on January 23rd. And so this is, I'd just like to say something. So Ivan's father is Robert Owen Campbell. He was born in Louisville, Kentucky in 1932. He was the oldest of 5 children. He went on to He graduated from high school in Louisville, and then entered the Air Force. And then he moved to California, and then became something that was kind of a remarkable story. He then started to work as a janitor for the LA Unified School District, and he worked as a janitor for approximately 15 years while he put himself through college. And he received an English degree, and then went on to become, for the next 34 years, a LA Unified school teacher. So he went from janitor to school teacher, and while he was working for the school district, he also was a English as a second language teacher at Los Angeles City College, and he was bilingual, fluent in Spanish. According to his family, he was a civil rights activist, and he was an avid dancer and a champion chess player, and he founded a chess club called the Chestnuts. Apart from Ivan, he's survived by 3 other sons. A 5th son predeceased him, and his wife of 43 years, Daisy. And he was his sons say that he was not, even though he was a student of English, he was not somebody who was fond of using a lot of sayings, but one of the ones that he said to them over and over again, that, quote, "If you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything." And so his family, and as somebody who was at his memorial service, the family truly, he was, as I've said, a giant of a man if he were present at that ceremony. So anyway, in honor of Robert Owen Campbell and the city attorney's office, would like the council to adjourn in his memory.
And then I have to say that it is with great sadness that we adjourn this council meeting in memory of Shirley Rosenberg, the mother of Karen Ginsberg, our Director of Community and Cultural Services. Shirley passed away at 95 years old on January 23rd, 2017. Shirley was born in Utica, New York, and attended Boston University before marrying Irving Rosenberg. Shirley and Irving spent the early years of their marriage living in various cities, while he served in the Army and Air Force, and they later settled in Brookline, Massachusetts. Shirley spent many years working at Hadassah, where she was an executive assistant, and upon retirement volunteered for various organizations, including the Arthritis Foundation, America Reads, and at her independent living residence. She also enjoyed participating in the choir and organized excursions for the residents of her independent living complex. Shirley was a devoted wife, mother of 3 daughters, grandmother of 4, and great-grandmother of 3. Many friends and family members have remarked since her passing that they will always remember her smile. Speaking on behalf of the entire community, we convey to Karen and her family our deepest condolences. And then, of course, I think we all are deeply saddened when someone so young in our community passes away. And we all heard the sad news of the passing of Santa Monica High School student Kelly Cano. We will adjourn in her honor at our next meeting, but for those who are interested, her memorial service is this Saturday, February 18th at 1 p.m. at St. Monica's. If anybody's interested in attending, it's very sad news. And with that, we are adjourned to 13 days from now on February 28th for our next meeting. With that, good night.